Hello, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran, and I'm here with River Brown, Andrew Velez, and Joe Dehls. This is now episode 331. In this episode, we will have Wilder Adams on the show to do a 2021 NBA Redraft. After that, we'll shift over to talking about the Magic's hot start, the Pistons' failed rebuild, the Warriors' woes, and give our in-season tournament predictions. Now, before we start the show, we have some excellent things in front of us right now, and that's because you guys have sent us some amazing things. This right here, this Mahomes jersey is from Mr. Santos Lopez. He is a GOAT. He sent me this Mahomes jersey,
Love you,
and
Santos.
this Mahomes jersey has a special patch on it from the Super Bowl that he just won. That only one person at this table correctly predicted. Let's just make that very clear.
Gross.
Patrick Mahomes, boy, you know how it goes. Over here, we got a Devin Booker jersey that we don't have a Sharpie.
Shout out to Cole Ware. Listen, Cole, I want it to be known. Name a household that doesn't have a Sharpie. Name one. Unfortunately, this is the one. But we will get this signed. I'm telling you, we're gonna get it done. But of course, we another show that you get shouted on. I feel like that's not the worst thing. You know, a little silver lining for us being a little irresponsible. But listen, this Devin Booker jersey has been hung up for at least 3 episodes now. But now we have a new jersey hung up. Shout out to Riv's boy, Mr. Derrick Rose. Jersey from his MVP season.
To this room, start getting a little
And this
emotional
Derrick Rose jersey is from Liam Moore. He wrote us this letter.
Legend.
He goes, "Pick a side, guys. I'm glad this jersey finally gets to be shown off. It was given to me in 2011 with the hope I'd grow into it. I'm 21, and that hasn't happened. All that to say, I'm a big fan of the pod and conglomerate of content you guys seem to be heading towards." Very, very big word. Nice choice of vocabulary.
Riv, spell that word right now.
What's the word?
Conglomerate.
I'm fucked.
Simply no way.
Conglomerate?
Uh-huh.
Let's try it. Okay.
No. Okay.
Don't treat me like a 5-year-old now.
Sometimes it works.
C. O. What's the word again?
Conglomerate.
Conglomerate.
I-
CONGLOMERAT.
Yes, correct.
Stop fucking playing with me.
I'll tell you what, bro. I used an A instead of an O, so I was ready for you to.
Okay, we're
No,
here.
but you cooked.
Yeah, we're here. That's a good guess. Okay.
Mr. Riv, the high school English teacher. The vibe you guys set is unlike any other podcast I've heard and is very endearing to us fans. P.S. Drew, congrats on that Broncos bet. W.
Bro's glazing now.
Is he the one that also sent the?
Yes, nothing but cakes. He goes, "Happy holidays, the official Pick a Side ambassador of Oklahoma." That's what I say. He says, okay, so I'm guessing it's Oklahoma. And in the back, he goes, "And I hope you guys enjoy the cakes. One is gluten-free, probably for Drew.
That is.
He has a gluten-free cake."
I'm touched.
He said, "I can't remember if one of you guys says it or if it says it." And then he says, "Any PS5 players, my @ is UHPTHASCO. If there's any PS5 players out there, shout out his PSN, you know."
If he wants to play 2K, we don't need to have the same system. So either which way, we can get a game or two in.
So these nut and bunt cakes right here, we have the flavor of chocolate chip cookie.
That's the
This is the gluten-free one. So this is for Mr. Drew.
Let's come into the Baja.
This next cake is chocolate chip. 2 chocolates.
That's for Riv's grandma.
Yes.
It's for Riv's grandma. Okay.
Gramsci.
You got a spoon here for it as well.
We have that in the crib.
Okay. You don't want to accept my spoon? This right here is the lemon cake. Are you a fan of lemon?
We have lemon and what
I'll tell you what, sleep on lemon. It's
Lemon's
good.
This
In
one,
dessert, it's good.
This is classic vanilla.
I'm cool with either.
Okay,
I
you
don't
get the
feel
classic
strongly.
vanilla.
Classic.
I'll be honest. I took a little.
That's some shit.
I took a little bite of the lemon cake a couple of days ago. I was,
So he did bite it.
He sure
I
did.
knew it. I knew it.
just the lemon one.
All right.
So wait, he's a Chicago fan. He's
I'm
the one that sent us
guessing
the
that
jersey.
might
That
be
looks
a
like a
Chicago
double
fan.
XL. Looks like a big.
I'm saying he's the one that sent us the jersey, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's 21. Dang, he wasn't even really up when that year happened, man.
What was he, 9?
9, 10.
Yeah.
He don't even understand type of impact that had, man. Shout out to him though, for sure.
Looking at the super chat, Ricky goes, "My Pick a Side brothers, what's up? That this week in the NFL gonna hit different with Russ next week. Mad Drew didn't SOB at first, but he's here now."
Listen, I needed to see a win against a defense that was supposedly supposed to stop us. That didn't happen. I'm here. I'm standing 10 toes. We're going to the goddamn playoffs.
Why isn't Russ in the MVP talks? Number is very similar to CJ Stroud. Shout out to our guy Terrell.
No, that killed me. We're going to pretend like the 100-yard difference doesn't exist.
Now that one had me crying.
But he said all he does is win. He's on a 5-game heater. He's
Sure,
right.
I guess
Well, it probably goes to show why, like, the MVP candidate that y'all have number one shouldn't be number one because the stats ain't there, but the winning is.
Who do we have at number
makes
one?
no sense. Jalen Hurts.
I have
Jalen
Lamar,
Hurts.
please.
You know, we propped
Some
up
respect.
Cam Newton when he was rushing in at the 1-yard line, but you know, when
Nah, Cam
Jalen
just-
Hurts does it,
Cam fake. Cam is different for sure.
is
Cam
it?
was way better.
Cam's was different.
Yes.
Cam would be like shotgun at the 1-yard line. Get in there.
Eagles
Jalen
just
Hurts-
have the most unstoppable play in NFL history.
No, for sure.
In NFL history. How crazy is
They
that?
have the strongest quarterback in the league and then
Yes.
the best
It's so
offensive line.
unstoppable that it doesn't impress people because it's just automatic.
He's talking to you.
Like that's not impressive.
It is for
When
sure.
you have an unstoppable move, that's
You have a quarterback
Nobody-
that can lift more than 90% of teams. like he's strong as shit.
No, he's OD
Yeah.
strong.
And then the best offensive line. in the
Yeah, there
world.
you go. That also
Yeah, that
helps.
helps. Like I think 80% of the
Kelsey
case.
definitely
You think so?
Yes, 80. I mean, quarterback sneaks historically are a
You
very
think
successful
you think
play.
Brock Purdy little ass could just QB sneak up in there?
With
he's a little-
Jason Kelsey
yeah, he's a little scrawny.
and Len Dickerson and
Yeah.
all those guys up front. Yes, he can.
Because Jalen pushes from the legs. He got strong base down there. You feel me?
Quarterback sneaks are historically like a very
Then why did Daniel
Successful
Jones
play.
I've
have a
seen
neck injury
Herbert
on
miss
his?
a couple times.
because there's
Pain.
still
Jay.
injury risk in it. It's not like there's not
No,
injury
but they
risk in
didn't
it.
like you could still get the first down.
What's
He didn't
what's
get
the
first down.
percentage
Tried it
this year
twice.
on that play?
It's actually a little bit down. The
Interesting.
Eagles, their success rate is much higher than everybody
Oh,
else's.
figure.
Have the Eagles not converted a 4th and 1 on or 3rd and 1 on a push?
They
every
actually
time.
haven't converted. I think they're not perfect. They're like 88%.
Brother,
on
that's
it.
perfect.
That's essentially perfect.
It's not perfect.
Come on.
They haven't converted a couple times.
I really,
But
can't
it
remember
is
when
it
they
is
haven't
a
converted.
very unstoppable play.
We're here, baby.
And credit to the offensive line. A really
Couldn't be
great
offensive.
offensive line. But is he a better quarterback than Dak Prescott? How he's playing? I
I
don't
saw
know.
we had some fun on Twitter and shit.
Really
It's interesting that you brought up Dak because I did have a question. Before we get into the NBA talks a bit. Remember last year how you were, mocking the Eagles for beating up on bad teams and kind of not doing what they should have done. And now this year you're propping up Dak. He's an MVP. He's doing this when his competition has been a little bit underwhelming. What's the difference?
Well, I think the difference is that Dak Prescott had a proven track record of winning games and especially against better competition in his
Does he?
career. Like Jalen Hurts last year when the Eagles won all those games, that was Jalen Hurts' first year playing at a high level.
For sure.
Dak Prescott has been a top 10 or on the fringe of top 10 quarterback since 2016. He had one of the best rookie seasons in NFL history in 2016 when he came to the NFL and took the NFL by storm to the point that a Hall of Fame quarterback who should maybe get in the Hall of Fame, Tony Romo, his job was taken. Even when he was slated to come back, the Cowboys said, no, Dak Prescott is playing at such a better level that we're going to keep rolling with Dak. And this year, all the teams that the Eagles are facing, the Cowboys are facing, and the Cowboys are beating them by much more. The Cowboys are struggling less against those teams. So I think when you have two teams that are facing similar opponents
What matters?
and one team
What matters
is
more
playing
though?
better against them,
Eagles
that
also
makes
haven't played
sense.
the Giants yet. They haven't played the Cardinals yet.
No, and they should beat
it's really
those
just the
teams.
Commanders.
What matters more,
which
beating the
they
great
got
teams close or
better
beating up
sometimes,
on the
though.
bad teams at a higher rate?
You have to be the great teams to advance in the playoffs. And that's why right now, I don't think there's a clear-cut MVP. I think
Okay.
Dak Prescott Dak Prescott since week 5 has been the best quarterback in the NFL. Like, no doubt about it.
Sure.
He has been the best quarterback in the NFL. But when you talk about MVP, that's why Dak Prescott's case, a lot of it is going to ride on these next coming weeks.
For sure.
When they face the Eagles next week, when they face the Bills, when they face the Dolphins, when they face the Lions. Depending on how Dak Prescott plays against those teams, that's either going to make or break his MVP case. So against those weak opponents, sure, like that's not the best case to win the award, but at the end of the day, it's these final weeks of games that are going to determine him winning it or not. But I think the MVP race is wide open. I'm not on the side of people thinking that it should go to a skill position player because skill position players don't add the value that a quarterback adds. The quarterback, that's the most valuable position in football. They have the ball in their hands most of the game. But I do think that people are kind of discounting Mahomes entirely in the MVP conversation when he's a top 3 MVP candidate. What he's doing with a lack of wide receivers, with his left tackle and right tackle being turnstiles pretty much. Jawan Taylor leads the NFL in holding. Donovan Smith on the left side does not block well. And Travis Kelce being hobbled, and they're still one of the best teams in that AFC, and he's still putting up great numbers. He has the highest completion percentage he's ever had in his career. I think people are just discounting Mahomes out of the conversation because they're bored of it. Right. But you talk about who has the most value to their team, it's Patrick Mahomes always, and that's what he's doing this year again.
That's a fact. I mean, that's the same argument we had with why I had LeBron James just win MVP every year. He adds the most talent or most value to every team he's been on. You can't get the same guy the award every year, though. That's probably the only argument against it.
Yeah, let's talk about basketball.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes.
Before we talk about basketball, this goes hand in hand with basketball, and that is that we are now partnered with Prize Picks. In the month of December, if you use code PAS on Prize Picks, you can get a 100% deposit match up to $100. If you guys want to use Prize Picks and you guys want to help out the podcast, that helps us out in a big way. So use Prize Picks, use code PAS. Yesterday, I played in New York for the first time I've ever played Prize Picks.
How'd it go?
I didn't win.
Okay.
I didn't win. Yeah, two power play.
I think Riv has another story, though.
Riv came up big.
I'll tell you right now, once I get to the app, keep talking.
Yeah, but listen, one of my bets was I took the under on Jokic PRA. He went under. And then I took the over on Zion's points. He's been on the tear. He had 12 points. Nothing I could do about that. Nothing I could do about that.
Destroyed Philadelphia.
So I have made 6 entries so far. 4 entries have won, and I have made a grand total of $1,271.
Calm. Let him fucking cook.
What were those winning entries?
I got you. Those are all in one. That was like 2 nights back to back. So my first one, 5-pick entry, $40 flex pay to win 400. I had DJ Moore over 56.5 receiving yards against Detroit. George Kittle over 45.5 against Tampa Bay. Devontae Smith 57.5 over against Kansas City. Josh Allen over 1.5 passing touchdowns against the Jets. And then Odell over 2 receptions against Cincinnati. We were at 42 that night. I was stressing. The other big one, where was this? Again, this was the 750 one, the one that really put me up.
How much did you put on
$75 power play
75
to make 750. Jared Allen over 5.5 defensive rebounds. De'Aaron Fox, LeBron James over 13 assist combo. They had 16 combined. That was a stressor game because the Lakers were getting their ass whipped. And then they fake made a sneaky comeback.
That's what we do. We're the fourth quarter,
I was lit. And then Donovan Mitchell plus Shaden Sharp, more 5.5 over for 3 points made combo. And then Anthony Davis 3.5 stocks over. And he cleared that. He had
tough.
5. So
he's been OD on defense.
750. That was the big money made. I'm back. I'll be back, man. I'm coming back, man.
The first topic of the show will be a 2021 NBA Redraft. We're going to have Wilder Adams up here to do that with us.
Johnny Bravo.
Before we have him up here, 3 super chats we're going to read. Ricky goes, question for Drew. If Broncos play Dolphins in a wild card, who are you rooting for?
I want the Broncos to win 70-20.
That's funny.
Get back.
So you do your Tua now going to come up big in the big moment.
Tua's going to have a stinker.
I'll live.
Okay. You won't with us.
I don't care.
Pick a side meme goes, here's $10 for a Sharpie pen.
Santos, shout out to you, bro.
And Big O goes, shout out Lake Show. Shout out Kenny Pickett. Shout out Pick a Side.
Shout
out to Big O.
Now we're going to have Wilder Adams up here. How you doing?
Yes, sir.
What's up, guys?
Excited
to be here.
Listen, the 2021 NBA draft is a very weird one because I think there's a lot of players in contention for the first overall pick. Neither of these players' careers are set in stone right now, so everything is kind of, to a degree, projection based on what we think they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm excited to do this. How do you guys feel about the 2021 NBA draft?
A lot of underwhelming players, but definitely some exciting players. The top 5, I feel like we were talking about it before the show. Feels like that's pretty locked and loaded. But definitely some players that didn't turn out the way that we may have felt.
How we
2021.
How we design this draft order?
I feel like I always go first.
You do,
so I don't want to go first this time.
Listen, I think this is what I was thinking.
Okay.
I think Riv should in fact go first.
I
think it's the pick. He's the person who roots for the Pistons. He's the one that loves Cade Cunningham still. He's the one that's highest on him.
Damn, he's gonna force you to do something.
I'm very interested to see if the Pistons still pick Cade number 1, and I'd love the number 2 pick to pick for the Rockets.
I do just want to go this way then. Just want to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Yeah. Well, do you want to do Snake also, or just go right back to Riv?
I think we should do Snake.
Snake's
All right.
valid.
Yeah,
Wait, do I
Snake
end
is
up with
good.
Golden Snake if we do Snake? That'd be fire if I do.
We'll have to see if you do.
Oh, they
Snake
get
or not.
7. I don't think so. I'm fucking cooked. Okay, I'll go first because I think
I'd have both. Not Drew would.
Drew.
Yeah.
Drew, make a good decision.
So how this is going, just for the audience watching, Riv gets number 1, I get number 2, Dehls 3, Drew 4, Wilder Adams gets 5. So
That's a
that's
safe pick. I'll take it.
Okay. All right.
2021 NBA Redraft with the first overall pick.
Mm.
Riv is selecting for the Pistons. Who are you going
Hit
with?
his music just for the first, just because I
Just
need
for
to
the
hear.
first pick.
Crying. This one is tough. It's super tough because the conversations that's been on the top 3 guys specifically this year have been very odd. It's been Cade, turnover merchant, not an efficient player. Can he be the number 1 on the team? For Jalen Green, it's can he be a superstar? Can he be a high-powered all-star? They've been winning games sometimes in spite of him. And then Evan Mobley, it's can he uplift his offense enough to make him comparable on that side
Don't
of the
forget
ball?
one other guy.
Huh?
Don't forget one other guy. Mr. Scotty Barnes. Hello.
I said, wait, see, all right, now I have to start over my monologue.
Yeah.
There's
please.
been tampered expectations for the top 3 guys. A lot of it is Cade getting bad rep, Jalen Green getting bad rep, Evan Mobley kind of getting a bad rep. Scotty Barnes hasn't, which is why I didn't say his name, because he's been getting a good rep. You see how you just listen?
Last year,
he's been hooping.
he didn't get a
Yeah,
bad
but this
rep?
year he's been hooping. So that's
no,
what
interesting.
He
That's
bounced
how it
back.
works.
He bounced back.
18
Yeah.
games now automatically all last year it gets thrown away. I'm
We'll-
happy.
We'll see people
I'm
buying in.
thrilled.
Doing a redraft.
I'm just glad that you're turning your tune on Scotty. Makes me
doing
feel
a
good.
redraft.
Good.
But then Sengun has
Talk.
100%
Talk.
jumped
that
into this
conversation.
conversation
Definitely.
as being a kind of a hub for a elite offense in the league. And if he had better players, they'd probably have a top 5, top 3 offense. But I think they'll still manage out to be good. Detroit, I think still goes Cade. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think Detroit
Wow.
still goes Cade. I think as bad as he's been, I don't think the situation is great. I do think he has things to work on as an individual player, the turnovers, having a effective game offensively, getting better in the handles department. But I don't think Detroit has given him much to handle, and I do think he's still top 5 in a lot of categories for his class.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically speaking, if any one of these players was in this situation the way they was, I don't think they would perform any much better than Cade. I don't think Jalen Green would thrive in this situation. I definitely don't think Evan Mobley would thrive in this situation. Sengun is probably the one, maybe, but I think his best asset is playmaking, and this team just doesn't operate the way like that. So I think this team still goes Cade at number 1, and I'm confident in that pick for sure.
So, Riv, you mentioned top 5 in a lot of categories. I'm assuming this is what you're referring to. Cade with the 2021 draft class, 2nd in points per game, 1st in assists, 1st in 3-pointers made, 1st in total assists, 1st in total points, 4th in total steals, 1st in total free throws made, 2nd in free throw percentage. Now, Cade Cunningham really has
and
been solid.
that's
Needs to
a
be more
double-edged
efficient.
sword because he's like 100 in usage rate, which
Mhm.
should never happen for a player that young.
I'm with you.
But at the same time, he's missed last year, so it's interesting.
Now, Wilder Adams, I know that you have not been like the biggest fan of Cade. So after each pick, I kind of want to have a somewhat discussion about this. And this is the first pick. This is Cade Cunningham to the Pistons. And I think this deserves some type of discussion. What do you think about Cade and the Pistons? Do you think they would still select Cade with the first overall pick, knowing what they know now?
Genuinely, I don't care what they would do. And the reason why I say that is because they've been making so many wrong turns the last 3 years. Just because they make a decision doesn't make it the right decision. I wouldn't take Cade top 4, to be honest. And
Oh my God.
I'll take Şengün over him. I'll take Scotty over him. I'll take Mobley over him, and I'll take Franz Wagner over him. I truly question what is Cade Cunningham's primary number 1 go-to skill. Those top 4 guys, they all have them. And I understand it is a bad situation that has poor spacing, but I don't want that to really cover up the genuine questions we have about Cade Cunningham as a high-pressure heliocentric creator. I really don't trust his long-term as a number 1 guy. As a number 2 guy, I could totally see it. My comp for him is like a better playmaking Chris Middleton long-term. But I don't think he's number 1 guy. Therefore, I wouldn't take him number 1.
Question. I need y'all to just
Okay.
yeah. James, my boy. Listen, we go way back like Cadillac with 4 Flags. And me and you, we have our genuine discussions on Cade, and we come to a bit of a medium ground, and maybe we should lower the expectations. Maybe he's in the wrong role. Do you genuinely believe, and I want you to really think about this question, do you genuinely believe if any one of those 4 players were the heliocentric offensive player for this team, their weaknesses would not outweigh Cade's? For example, Evan Mobley.
Evan Mobley.
Sorry.
Oh, right off you, Todd?
I wanted him to answer
for
the first
Evan
guy.
Mobley.
Yeah, I wanted him to answer.
Gotcha.
Evan Mobley's offensive weaknesses probably outweigh Cade's, but because he's playing with Darius Garland, because he's playing with Donovan Mitchell, it looks a lot different. Franz is probably the one guy who's similar in Cade in terms of size, strength, but once again, he's playing with not the most talented guys, but he's playing with a good roster. Here's Paolo, here's Mosley. Then we can shift over to Sengun, which is another one who's probably the one guy you can say, well, if you put him out there, he probably uplifts his teammates, make them better. But at the same time, the roster is just not good. And then Jalen Green, like, would you legitimately take after what you just seen?
This when I say Jalen Green.
So what did he say? Scotty?
He said Scotty.
Scotty is a good one because he has been playing well this year. So I can't say too much about Scotty right now.
Sengun also is in a situation where last season, obviously, he was one of the better offensive players. You could say he was the best offensive player towards the second half of the season. And now this year, we're seeing Houston now really run the offense to him or try and let him become the initiator. But that's not the strength of their team where he has been awesome. The strength of the Rockets right now is that defense. So last year with him being the primary offensive piece, I'm lying right now.
No, I think their offense and defense has been about even this year.
Yeah, I'll give it. Yeah.
But the defense is what?
But the defense improving is what is made
defense improving, but the offense last year was a bottom 20
and
offense.
also with the fact of Ime coming in, he is a defensive-minded coach, or at least that's how I see it. That's really what's helped boost them in this category. Sengun's playing great for sure, but I think it's more so team basketball as opposed to just Sengun playing at a very high level nevertheless.
I think of like 70% of the reason is Sengun being that offensive hub.
A little bit of veteranship also with the Fred VanVleet coming in. Dylan Brooks has been another one who's been a great addition for the Houston Rockets at this point. And again, Ime Udoka coming in and immediately trying to impact that culture. We've seen it happen.
But Sengun is playing at an all-star level this year.
He's been awesome.
And last year, if you paid attention to Sengun, he was playing like this when the offense was ran through him. It was just a Stephen Silas problem with this team. Listen, Ime has come in and he's played to the Rockets' strengths. That's not discounting what Sengun's doing.
No way. Agreed.
And I don't think if it sounds like conversation.
If it sounded like I was trying to disrespect Sengun, that wasn't my intention. I just more so mean where Sengun's awesome. He really is impacting the Rockets as a whole. I really just think the team play with the new culture setter in an Ime, and honestly, Dylan Brooks, who let me not say we all, because of course you were definitely on the side of him making an impact for the Rockets. He has come in, done a great job, and Fred as well. The veteranship really has helped this team.
So, Wilder, when it comes to Evan Mobley, to answer Riv's question, what do you have to say?
I would say it wouldn't start on the offensive end with Evan Mobley. I think his defense is a very high-end floor raiser, right? Offensively, I'm totally with Riv. I think he is, at this point, a high connective piece, but not somebody you can build around offensively. But on the other hand, I do think Evan Mobley is going to be one of those long-term defenders where it's going to be really hard to have a bottom half defense in the NBA when Evan Mobley's on your roster. And because of the floor raising element to his game, I would prefer that over Cade Cunningham. So in terms of Evan Mobley, that's my argument for sure.
And the last thing I'll say on the pick, taking someone has his elite skill is defense. Number one, when the offensive game is limited, to me, I feel like the safe option here would be a Scotty Barnes who can do both.
I'm with that. That'd be my pick. He'd be my pick number one, actually. So
listen, I think when it comes to this Pistons pick, I think it's safe to say whichever young player is in the situation wouldn't be thriving.
Agreed.
But with Cade, he came to the NBA as somebody that was going to have the ball in his hands a lot because he was viewed as a point forward who is a heliocentric type of player. He's getting that type of usage because he was propped up to be that type of player in the league. And he's one of the worst players getting that usage amongst those players in the league currently. The reason why Mobley, I think, would be better for the Pistons is because, like Wilder said, like the defense gives you a high floor. Mm-hmm. Defensively, you're still getting an elite player. There is not an innate elite part about Cade's game right now that I think you can point to. With Evan Mobley, there is one.
The only thing with Mobley, and I agree. I think the Cade coming out was supposed to be that, and I think once again you can always tamper your expectations.
Yes.
Maybe he can be the number 2 guy, but the thing with Evan Mobley is an elite defender. I believe that. I think he should have been. Yeah, he's one of the best defenders in the league, but I don't know how he would look if he didn't have Jarrett Allen to help him. Because I remember last year, Jarrett Allen missed some time. Evan Mobley was a great defender for him, but him being the sole rim protector for Detroit, I don't know. Him be like, he is best kind of in that 4 spot where he can hover around. He can also switch out in the perimeter. Him being the sole rim protector, I mean, we've seen him in the playoffs. Him and Jarrett Allen both were getting bullied, destroyed on the glass. He's also not a great rebounder. He's a good one. He's not a great rebounder. He's not a great box-out player. So him being out there, like, and you mentioned it, Joel, you made a great point. Anybody going to Detroit, that situation is just going to be nasty. You know, and it's sad that Cade is just the one that's getting the flack because I think his, you know, his negatives are bad, but I think the situation is making his negatives bigger than what they actually are. You know, I think a lot of young players have turnover issues, but I think some of his turnovers are a little stupid at the time. I think some of them become bad in the clutch. He makes bad decisions. But at the same time, the way the coaching is, they run 1,000 pick and roll, spam. There's nothing to really kick out to. So Scotty at 1, Mobley at 1. I don't think it's a big issue. The only one I'm kicking the door at is Franz, because it's like, I think he's a good ass player. I think he can be a great player. I don't know if he can be the guy to change a franchise, which is what we're essentially picking with the number 1 pick. I think he is perfect in his role. He was perfect in his role in Michigan. I think coming in with Boncaro and him being a great player last year, him being that connector and Boncaro kind of being that number 1 guy, I think he's fitting right into that role. So I don't know about Wagner.
Is there a true number 1 guy in this draft class, though?
Exactly.
I think Scotty, in my opinion, would be that true number 1 guy because you mentioned he was supposed to come in, Cade to be that point forward type guy. That's Scotty. Also, we're seeing on the defensive side of the ball, we know Scotty Barnes is a better defender. He's just a more all-around player than I would say of the 4 guys that we're having the conversation about.
Do you think he's a number 1 though?
I don't think he's number 1.
I don't think he's number 1.
I think he's a
either.
great player. I don't think he's number 1.
I think you can
In which
say
way,
there's
though?
no number 1 in this class.
I don't think there's a
He's-
true number 1.
Let me not say he's the number 1 on his team because Pascal Siakam's obviously one of the more underrated, better players in the association. But again, who's running that offense? It's Scotty Barnes.
That doesn't mean he's number 1, though. Just because he's running the Raptors offense doesn't mean that.
Of course,
You
the
can
way he
have-
impacts defense, again, facilitating.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you will be a high-level team with Scotty Barnes being your
listen,
best player.
again, we already
That's the
said
number
it.
1.
We already said there's no one that's going to come in and immediately impact this team. But again, with the defensive side of the ball, I feel as if that's what I'd be looking to and why I lean Scotty as the comfortable one.
Question. Do y'all think, hypothetically, if you plugged Cade in Brooklyn, they would be a playing team? Like, they would be a good-ass team?
Just add him to the roster, not subtract anybody else.
And then you put him with a bunch of players that can space the floor.
Cam
I'm gonna
Johnson,
say he's a
Mikal
playing. They're
Bridges.
playing.
Yeah.
I think number 1 for like a championship team, probably not. But I think a consistent playoff team, talk me into it for sure.
Yeah, there's no one talented enough in this draft for me to say this is going to be a number 1 on a team that can make
For
a playoff
example,
run.
put Scotty Barnes on the Pistons and put Cade on the Raptors. What does it look like right now?
Yeah, he's going to look better on the Raptors.
I think it looks better on the Raptors. Slightly better.
Scotty's probably not going to look.
Scotty
as he's-
also
as he's
has a
looking this
turnover
year.
problem.
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah,
And-
that's why I don't see any high-level number 1. I think Franz is playing number 2 to Boncaro.
Definitely.
I think the best one, number 1, as like an offensive hub is just Şengün.
I agree.
I
That's
think
an offensive hub. Yeah.
I think Şengün can be a number 1. Like the flashes he gives me are very Jokic-like,
Yeah.
and I really don't want to dismiss that. The amount of assists he's averaging for his size, the amount of post game that he has, he's developed that mid-range jump shot, that little Dirk one-leg fadeaway. Şengün has gotten better every year, and if there's one person I'm betting on developing into that high-level guy that you can run your entire offense through, and they can be a top 10 offense every year, I would bet on.
So you have the
Şengün.
number 2 pick. The Houston Rockets have the
Yes.
number 2 pick. Are you keeping Şengün in Houston?
With the number 2 overall pick, the Houston Rockets originally selected Jalen Green. I'm going with Alperen Şengün. Alperen Şengün still
easy.
goes to the Rockets. He's the second best player on the board right now. Well, I wouldn't say second best player on the board. I think he's the best player on the board. If I had the first pick, I would have took Şengün number 1. But I think in the redraft, if the Pistons take Cade, I'm going with Alperen Şengün with the second overall pick.
Over and Mobley.
over Evan Mobley. Absolutely.
I
Yes.
think with Şengün, the fact that we don't even have to play any mental gymnastics, like, oh, with Şengün on this team with these players and this coaching staff, like we're just adding him right back to Houston. We've seen, he's gradually gotten better, but this year, this is really his breakout season. So moving on to number three overall pick, I should say, Cleveland Cavaliers. So Evan Mobley's still on the board. I think the only other player in consideration for me is Scotty Barnes. Franz is also in that conversation too. And I'm thinking of Cleveland at this time. I have their 2021 roster up. This is before they have Donovan Mitchell, right? So you're looking at a core of Darius Garland, Jared Allen. They still have Colin Sexton on this team. They still have Lauri Markkanen on this team. This is tough because they could probably use somebody, they probably don't need a big, right? You probably, with Lauri, the breakout that we've seen in Utah, if we're living in a world where Lauri just continues to have this breakout, he does it with Cleveland, and you have Jared Allen at the 5, Evan Mobley doesn't become as necessary for this team. And the fact that we haven't seen as much offensive growth from Evan Mobley probably doesn't put him at this number 3 pick. I think I would lean Scotty Barnes here. I think I would lean Scotty here. The 3-point shot has made a complete 180. He went from someone who last season was shooting in the 20s, I want to say. This year shooting in the high 30s. So I would take Scotty Barnes here with the number 3 pick.
All right, 4th overall pick. The Toronto Raptors originally got Scotty Barnes. You're allowing Evan Mobley to drop to me with the 4th overall pick. This is as easy as it gets. The Raptors in this redraft will be taking Evan Mobley. No explanation needed. He's going to add to the defense. You already have Pascal Siakam. That's also before Jakob Poeltl, where he doesn't have the size to play that true center, but he just, of course, adds to that defense and that defensive identity that Toronto had at that time and still has right now. But again, Evan Mobley at 4, that's a no-brainer.
You're on the clock.
You have 2
Man. Okay, you guys made the pick really easy for me, Grammer. So my number 5 pick will be Franz Wagner. Like Şengün, he sticks in his original spot. And I think with Franz, I agree with you guys. I don't think he's a true number 1. Like there's none of those in this class, but I do think he is just he might be the most impressive slasher in the class. Just aesthetically, his footwork, his balance, his body control, his touch. He's a special slasher. And if he can start hitting pull-up jumpers, man, he could be one of the 20 best players in the league. So this is a special talent that the Magic keep going forward with.
All right, and you
Snake
get the
draft order.
You get the 6th
Oh, yes.
pick.
Oh, man. Okay, I got 6'2". Okay, see. Definitely not Josh Giddey.
He's undraftable in this
He
draft.
is.
He's
Yeah,
undraftable.
we made that
Okay.
very clear. He's undraftable.
Okay, gotcha. 2021 man needs to get studied. But
So is Joshua Primo, in case you were thinking of doing that.
James Bouknight, we can go on.
No,
and on.
no,
We can make a documentary about this class, honestly. Number 6, OKC is going to take Trey Murphy. And
That's a
I
great
just
pick.
love the fit next to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Just
You're
give
gonna
Shea
love my pick
space.
at 7.
Give Shea space. Give Shea length around the perimeter. I think he would be the perfect complementary player. And I think while this draft isn't like super top heavy, I do think it's sort of like 2016-ish where there's like 7 or 8 like potential all-star caliber players. And I think Trey Murphy fits that as just an amazing complementary floor spacer. And Shea's going to have like 30 lanes to the rim a game.
All right, very good selection there. I understand the logic most definitely. Definitely Trey Murphy was one of those I was looking at for this next upcoming pick at 7 for the Golden State Warriors. But now it's between 2 guys. It's between Mr. Austin Reeves and it's between Mr. Jalen Suggs. And with the way that Jalen Suggs has been playing as of late, definitely is to be considered with this pick. But I'm going safe here. You get defense with Austin Reeves. You get someone that can rebound the basketball, also be a part in terms of facilitating an offense, knock down a 3-point shot, be a 3-level scorer at the shooting guard position. To me, this is an easy one. I'm going Austin Reeves at 7.
I knew that was coming up. So you already took
franchise
Franz.
doomed.
Sorry, you already took Franz with the number, was it 5 pick?
Yep.
So let's just be
okay.
clear right now. We have Jalen Green is still in on the draft.
Yes.
Jalen Suggs is still on the board. Both players that went top 5 in the original draft.
Yeah, so Franz already got taken, right? So in this hypothetical world, we're looking at the 2021 Orlando Magic, Cole Anthony, Franz, Wendell Carter, Jalen Suggs. And Jalen Suggs is still on the board, right? You have a couple other guards here. You have Gary Harris on this team, Markelle Fultz, Mo Bamba, but eventually he gets moved down. We're not looking at Mo Bamba as a franchise piece or anything. So you look at the backcourt for this Magic team in 2021, they have some depth, right? They already have some guys here that you like. This is tough, man, because Jalen Suggs has kind of turned into like the heart and soul for the Magic this season. I love the like expressiveness he plays with. He plays with so much tenacity and just emotion in this game.
I'm gonna be honest. I sold.
You sold?
I sold.
You did sold.
I should have took Herb.
You should have.
I should have took Herb.
That's why I tried to explain to you if Austin Reeves was not going top 7. But
he also gives you defense and offense. Herb is just unbelievable.
He doesn't
Austin
give you that
Reeves
much
does not give you
defense. You have
defense,
to stop
man.
saying that.
He's not a
average
bad
defender.
defender.
He's not
He's
this I
average.
give you defense type
He'll
of
give you
vibe.
defense. He locked up
No,
play.
yeah,
in the-
he'll
Bro got bullied by Germany.
He'll let the opposing top guards score 30 on him in crucial games. That's what
Like
he'll
when?
do. What do you mean, like when?
Like when?
Team USA was he not getting
Team
torched?
USA. No, were we getting torched
if
because
Austin-
of Reeves?
If Austin Reeves is the primary guy
He
in
was
the
getting
series
picked on.
defending
He was.
De'Aaron Fox, De'Aaron Fox averaging 30.
De'Aaron Fox is giving anyone 30.
Exactly, but you
That's unfair to say.
bro,
You didn't think
get
about Suggs?
you get high level
I said
defenders
I
to
thought
stop
about
those
Suggs.
guys.
I said, especially with the way that he's been playing recently. But again, since what Reeves has shown us a full season of high-level basketball in the playoffs as well, in big moments, he showed up. Golden State Warriors needed that. They lost Poole, and of course, obviously, we're taking in situations of what was going on at that time period. But again, you see
Poole was
what he
still
can
there.
do. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
At that time, for sure.
What great offensive player is Austin Reeves slowing down?
Don't lie.
I don't know.
Yeah,
None. If he's not slowing down any player, then the defensive point is
Again,
is
but you're
done.
saying elite offensive players. Who really is getting limited like that if you're an elite offensive guard?
I know Herb Jones will limit them.
Got my pick.
Herb Jones was definitely, like I said, Herb Jones was definitely someone that I should have considered here.
I think Jalen Suggs could limit
But it
them.
adds to the
Like,
offense too.
Suggs would be fun there.
Yeah, like
But Suggs, what he's shown us this year and a little bit late last year, fine. In 18 games, Jalen Suggs has been really good this season. But again,
his defense has always been good. Though.
it has.
Like I'm just saying, you
Fuck
don't
everybody else.
trust.
You
You don't
just
trust
folded with
offense. You don't trust
That's what I
Austin Reeves
said.
to slow down
I'm admitting
anybody.
it. I'm saying now in hindsight, I definitely should have took Herb.
Listen, you're taking this 18 game sample size of Jalen Suggs. I think that's fine. There's another player who didn't have the 18 game sample size because he got hurt right now, or I guess a couple of weeks ago. I think Jalen Johnson right here would be a great
Okay.
pick for the Magic. This season he's taken a big leap. He was getting more minutes, of course, before the injury. His 3-point shot was there. We already knew the athlete he was, the ability to finish around the rim. He's a plus defender, and they need wings at this point in their season 2021 Magic. They don't have Paulo on this team, right? It's a lot of you have a lot of guards, you have a couple bigs, but you don't really have anyone on the wing. So I would take Jalen Johnson.
Listen, man, I think that
That's a
you
good
guys
pick.
are making fine
Thank you.
picks. I'll be honest here. I don't think Jalen Green should be slipping this far. I understand that
Where
he's.
would you take him?
I think
He didn't fit Golden State. That's the only reason I didn't pick him.
I probably would have. OKC is an intriguing option. I think the Magic right there would be an
Really?
intriguing option because they need somebody that
OKC?
can score.
OKC getting the 3-and-D with Trey Murphy definitely made sense though.
Jalen Green to me though, I feel like he's getting a little bit slept on. And right now, I'm not going to pick him because of fit, because it's the Kings, and I'm under the assumption that at this point in time, the Kings have not made the trade yet. They didn't trade Tyrese, but I'm under the assumption that they eventually will make the trade.
This redraft to me gets so difficult. It's just like what the thought process for me would be if right now would be the case, would this player better fit what they have going on right now, as opposed to going back in time trying to be like, oh, they had this, they had that.
Yeah, outside of Toronto, I don't see Jalen Green fitting anywhere.
That's why fit with
But in-
Jalen
in-
Green's
in the
very
picks
tough.
we had, like Orlando, not really. OKC,
Orlando at the time didn't have Paolo.
true.
They didn't. They needed a
See what
score.
I'm saying? That's why when we start
Their
to
guard,
get into
their
that,
guard
it's tough.
spot was Cole Anthony and Markel Fultz.
Yeah.
So Jalen Green, I think, would have been a solid pick in Orlando. I would have personally just taken Jalen Suggs at number 8, and I would have still taken him just given what he's the heart and soul of the team right now. With the Kings, this is a tricky pick because at the time they have Fox, they have Hallie, they don't need another guard, so Jalen Green probably doesn't go here. With the 9th overall pick for the Kings, I'm going to go with Herb Jones.
Great
This is where I'm picking Herb Jones. They need a defensive stopper. Herb Jones fits that to a T. Playing alongside De'Aaron Fox, I still think they make the trade for Sabonis. So Fox, Herb Jones, Sabonis. They finally got that defensive stopper. I'm going with Herb Jones.
So I'm at 10, and apparently this is the Grizzlies pick.
It is. Well,
New Orleans
Yeah, they
picked, but then they
traded.
traded. So I'm gonna pick for the Grizzlies. They picked Zaire Williams, which I think we can nip that in the butt.
agree.
Moses Moody is here. Corey Kispert is here. Jalen Johnson was picked. Quinn Grimes is here. And
Suggs is still on the board too.
Suggs is still on the board.
Yes.
Holy shit, a lot of good players. I feel like all those players Memphis would love to have. I think Grimes hasn't been playing well, but I think he's still a really good player that could fit with Memphis. I also think Moses Moody would probably thrive in Memphis, given how they produce these type of young players, given the fact that they let their guys play. I think Corey Kispert has shown that he's a sniper and that he would fit magically into Memphis because they don't have many shooters. But I think Suggs is the guy here. I think, they just traded for Marcus Smart. Suggs kind of gives you that type of Marcus Smart vibe, heart and soul. He will fit right into the culture. He brings that defense, and he's shown that his three-point shot is improving steadily. And I think he can be your backup guard. I think he makes, if we're thinking of this hypothetical situation, I think he makes losing Tyus Jones very, very, very comfortable because he's a guy that can come in and fit right. So, unfortunately, there is no 3 that I could take for them, which they need. So I will go Jalen Suggs here.
And
you're not thinking about Jonathan Kuminga here?
No. I think Memphis wants to win. I think you have more winning players on the board than a project player. So I think they would go with Jalen Suggs.
When it comes to development, though, Grizzlies definitely are one of the better teams.
For sure, but I think they do a little bit. Sometimes they've shown too much in development. I think right now it's just too many good players on the board. You want to win. And there's 3 winning players on the board right now.
I understand.
With the 11th overall pick, the Charlotte Hornets
he gets back to back.
Oh, he gets back to back. Oh, you get the Hornets pick.
He gets the Hornets.
Okay. James Bouknight was the original pick.
I know.
You want to take him again?
I get, this is a team that they haven't shown me they develop well. So I'm put Kuminga off. I'm not taking Kuminga here.
Jalen Green.
I can't go. Jalen Green does not fall out the lottery. There's he does not fall out the lottery. And they did try James Bouknight, so you go for the better player. So I'm gonna go Jalen Green here. Yeah. I think this is the pick where you make Jalen Green. He just doesn't. He still has untapped potential. I do think he still can be a great player. It's just the first 2 years looked a little nasty. Right now they're kind of winning in spite of him sometimes, but he has shown effort. He has shown strides in his game, and he can still be an offensive scorer. And him next to LaMelo could be electric. So I'm going to go Jalen Green here instead of James Bouknight. What a fall off, man.
I wish I had the 11th overall pick because I kind of wanted to have the decision of taking Jalen Green or taking Cam Thomas. I think Cam Thomas and Jalen Green is a legit discussion. And from the limited opportunity that Cameron Thomas has had in the NBA, he's made the most of every opportunity. I favor Cam Thomas. And with the 12th overall pick for the Spurs, I'm drafting Cam Thomas, an electric scorer who this year in 9 games is averaging 27 points per game for the Nets. He's not giving you much of anything else, but I think the scoring that he provides is so much, and he is really a microwave, and I don't think it's a flash in the pan. I think he can really legitimately score the ball in any way, hit tough shots, and once that efficiency catches up with his attempts, I think we're looking at one of the better scorers.
The way we've known Popovich is sometimes he keeps a leash on his players. Sometimes if you don't defend, he will sit your ass down. Do you think Cam Thomas can develop in San Antonio?
I think he could.
He's already shown that in with Brooklyn, where he's going to have inconsistent minutes, but when he gets those minutes, he's been popping off.
And Pop is known that if you're not playing deep, he will sit you down. So you think this is the spot?
If Keldon Johnson is still getting a lot of minutes for Greg Popovich,
well, they also paid him money.
They haven't defended for years.
Yeah, but he hasn't been a good defender for years. If he's getting a lot of playing time, I think Cameron Thomas, with the scoring punch that he gives you, would still play a lot in San Antonio. And I trust him to develop those great habits with Greg Popovich.
I say last year we saw him struggle to get consistent minutes because of what you're saying. So I understand your concern for sure, but understanding what he gives you when he's on the court offensively, it's hard to take that off the court.
They play a different style. So I don't know if he would be able to get what he got in Brooklyn in the same in San Antonio, but I understand it. You go for the Cam has another one with some untapped potential if given the right opportunity. So I like that pick.
So if the pick is between Cam Thomas and Jalen Green, who would you guys each go with?
I'd go Jalen. I think
Cam is more efficient.
That's not. Yeah, I think with the athleticism, and I think with the bounce he has and the 3-level scoring potential that he does show, I like they're the same size. They're both not strong or physical, but the athleticism pops off the screen for me with Jalen Green. Cam has probably shown more in small sample sizes, so it's hard to really just give you an outlook on a Cam Thompson full season. But I'd probably lean Jalen Green. But I think the gap has definitely closed from when we were coming out of college.
I agree. What can you remind me what we this draft order so far? I'm up next here for the
You're up
Indiana
next.
Pacers.
So far, the Pistons with Cade, Rockets Şengün, Cavs Scotty, Raptors Mobley, Magic Franz, Thunder Murphy, Warriors Reeves, Magic Jalen Johnson, Kings Herb Jones, Grizzlies Suggs, Hornets Green, Spurs Cam Thomas, and next up is the Pacers.
If the Kings got Herb Jones in real life, that would be insane.
What do you think? Who are you guys going with, Green and Thomas?
It's tough.
I feel like the upside's there for Jalen Green. So where we stand right now, I understand leaning Green. But again, with what you've seen from Cam Thomas, when he catches fire, he is nearly unstoppable as a scorer. Just pure get me a bucket. Right now, I lean Cam Thomas. And what's in terms of Jalen Green in that conversation with Cam Thomas, that's essentially their two main tasks. Of these two guys, they want you to go out and score. And if that's the case, I might just lean the better scorer right now in Cam Thomas.
It's so tough because Cam Thomas, like Riv mentioned, the small sample size, he's been unbelievable. But can this small sample size, if this goes over 82 games, will this, efficiency last? Will this just scoring output production last? I think I would still slightly lean Jalen Green just because I've seen it for a bit longer, even though it hasn't maybe been as, dramatic as Cam Thomas has. But that could take over. If Cam Thomas is able to stay healthy the rest of the season and put up these numbers, then I think you'd have to side there.
Wilder, how about you?
If you asked me 5 months, I might be insulted for Green's party about this question. But just seeing, I'm usually not one influenced too much by small sample sizes, but he played 3 real games last year, dropped 3 straight 40-point games. Coming into this year, he's averaging 27 a game. And he's one of the most gifted, young, just tough shot makers I've seen. And because I do have questions about Jalen Green's rim pressure now, more than I had 1 year ago, I think I would lean Cam Thomas, man. He just has that special element about him as a shot maker that I trust him to carry it over pretty well long term.
And Cam Thomas, just for reference, this year he's top 10 in mid-range field goal percentage and efficiency, and he's driving to the basket at a top 10 rate when he's played. So he's getting to the basket, he's hitting mid-range shots. It's really about that three-point shot falling down more efficiently because right now it's at 32%. Dehls, with the 13th overall pick for the Pacers, who are you going to draft for them?
So this is the Pacers pre-Hallie trade, right? So you're looking at Sabonis, Buddy Hield. They still have Malcolm Brogdon on this team, Karis LeVert. I'm kind of peeking down the line, cheating a little bit because I know how big of an issue defense has become for this team. And although they already have some guards, I'm looking at Quentin Grimes, who has shown last season the ability to, make threes offensively and the ability to play defense on the perimeter on the other side. So I think this would be a good fit for Quentin Grimes.
That's an excellent pick.
That is a great pick. I was hoping that the Warriors would be able to get him at 14. Now, this pick,
Should have had a better pick.
I told you, as soon as I made the pick, I regretted it. I should have took Herb. No, it's all right. But we don't, I stand 10 toes with my selections, even when I understand that they're not the greatest. But at pick 14, the original pick was a Moses Moody. Now, there is Kuminga still on the board, who they took with their 7th pick in the original draft. But in terms of what they need, I still like Moses Moody and what he provides to a basketball team. I know that they might need a big, and Santi Aldama was in this draft. I'm not even thinking twice about this. I'm going Moses Moody.
Wilder, you're on the clock.
For clarification, who was the 13th pick again?
The 13th
Quentin
pick
Grimes.
was
Quentin Grimes. Okay. Interesting. So
right now on the board, we still have Jonathan Kuminga, Davion Mitchell, Santi Aldama,
And you are Washington.
Chris Duarte, Corey Kispert, who was the Wizards' original pick, and those flamethrowers in Trey Mann and Bones Highland, who kind of are the same archetype.
Trey Mann was definitely on my mind for that Warriors pick, but I took a guard already with the first one, so I wasn't about to take second. I took Moses Moody. Yes.
So 15th pick, Wilder, who are you going with?
Man, I hate this spot for him, but 15, I'm going to take Jonathan Kuminga. So the thing with Kuminga is, do I trust him under that Washington Wizards development core? Heck no. But I think if you're the Wizards, you can't really think like that. So you take the high-end talent and you try to mold them, right? This might be not as bad as a Sekou Doumbouya situation, but I do worry about this spot. here with Kuminga, but he just has too much talent. I still would have taken him lottery.
All right, and you're back-to-back selections. So now you're picking for
The Rockets at 16.
Mhm.
The Rockets at 16. Okay, so they took Şengün early, and oh man, this is a tough one. I am going to make a
Week
pick
after this.
off of
It gets
faith.
up.
I make a pick based off of faith, not based off actual production because he hasn't really done much. But number 16, I'm gonna take Trey Mann.
Fuck.
I still believe. I still believe. I am not letting go of my belief here, man. That space creation, that touch, it's special, man. It just, I don't think OKC is a good spot for him. And I am not ruling out the idea that if he goes to a different spot, inevitably, he is going to put together a really nice career. It hasn't happened yet, but OKC is a weird situation. And at 16 overall, I still think I could throw a gamble 3 years in.
I don't disagree entirely. Damian Lillard went on somebody's podcast. I forgot whose it was exactly. And he talked about Trey Mann.
Yep.
And he talked about how he thinks that Trey Mann can thrive in another situation. And he reminds him a lot of Anthony Simons. I think that's a great comparison. Trey Mann just got thrust into a situation in OKC that just had a lot of young players, and there's not a spot for him. But I still do believe in his upside as a scorer. And I do believe in him as a player. I like that gamble a lot. I really do.
All right, so that means that it's my selection right now. This pick was owned by the Grizzlies, but they did trade it to the Pelicans. At the time, and even still, I feel like the Pelicans needed a guard, which is why Trey Mann definitely was on my board here at this selection. But I'm between two people. I'm between Ayo Dosunmu, who is going to be my selection, and Asante Aldama because they do need that big type presence. But I'll go with Ayo because he can be the point guard, give you some defense, obviously facilitate. 3-point shot has been falling a little bit better so far this season, shooting around 36, 37% league average. But again, he can fill that void for them of them needing a true guard, someone that can actually run the offense a little bit. I don't know if CJ McCollum, who obviously wasn't on the team at that point in time, but was that the first year he was on there? I'm blanking, but regardless, they needed a guard, and I'm going with Ayo.
So I got the 18th pick, right? You just took
Yep.
for the
Pelicans.
Yeah, Pelicans,
Yes.
Memphis. So OKC, he's here at 18. They took Trey Mann in real life, and I'm looking at this 2021 OKC team. Man, it was ugly. It was SGA, Lou Dort. This is what, rookie year, Josh Giddey. There's not a ton of talent on this team, so I'm trying to get into the minds of their GM. I'm blanking on his name. Sam Presti, who I feel like definitely could take some shots at upside.
Pick.
Should we just throw Josh Giddey back to OKC?
It's like this is where he ends up yet again. I feel like he could shoot for upside because I'm looking. I feel like Santi Aldama is probably like the best player on the board, knowing what we know. Corey Kispert's probably in that conversation too.
Facts.
Davion Mitchell could be kind of that.
Bones Highland
Case
is
of
also
Wallace.
in that.
Huh?
He's still on the board.
Davion? Yeah.
I think I would just take best player here and take Santi. They really have no big here. I mean, I'm trying to find who their starting center was this season.
No, because
Was
they
it
got
Al Horford that year, and I got him back.
Wasn't Al. I don't even know who it was.
Jeremiah
see.
Robinson.
They have Derek Favors at center. They had Robinson Earl.
I was gonna say because Jalen Williams was playing center majority of their season last year.
So they needed a big. I'll take Santi here. Santi.
With the 19th overall pick, the Charlotte Hornets are going to select Corey Kispert. I think Kispert is going to give them some floor spacing. I think the Hornets could use that, and I'm going to go with Kispert.
No Kai Jones, bro.
No Kai Jones.
Got it.
It's between him. It's between Kispert and Isaiah Jackson. I would lean Kispert.
I am tasked with picking for the Atlanta Hawks, and there is nothing left.
Davion Mitchell. They needed a backup point guard at the time.
You know what? I forgot
That
he
was
didn't
your
get
guy.
picked.
Remember? I'm blanking on his name now. Damn.
Jared Butler.
No, point guard that you made a 2K run and put him on the squad. He's a lefty, I'm pretty sure.
Marcus Page.
No. Did you go to Arkansas? I'm going to look it up and think about it. But he was a lefty. He was a smaller guy. I'm surprised you don't know who I'm talking about either.
Well, the point guards in this draft, Jaden Springer.
It was in this draft?
Deuce McBride.
I think so.
Nah, he said Arkansas.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
What do you mean? Yeah. What you saying?
No, Arkansas was really just Moses Moody in this draft. That was
he was a smaller guard. He played point guard. He primarily was a scoring guard. He got drafted to the Hawks, or I think he got picked up by the Hawks.
Sharif Cooper.
There it is.
Oh.
That
He's
is
not a
who it
lefty.
was.
Yeah.
He's
Sharif
not a
Cooper.
lefty.
He's not a
Yeah,
lefty.
he's not a lefty.
It
Yeah,
was
that's
Sharif
where you
Cooper.
were.
Got it.
Yeah.
Apologize.
The Sharif Cooper hype at that time was ridiculous.
First of all, I was just rooting for him.
Got
I
it.
didn't think he, you know what I'm saying? I didn't think he'd be this. I just was rooting for
Because he
him.
went to the Hawks either way, right?
Yeah, in the
In the
second
second
round.
round,
Mhm.
yeah.
With this pick, Davion Mitchell. The Hawks have been starving for a backup point
With
guard,
Sharif Cooper.
and Trey Young has been there. Davion Mitchell brings defense. He's a good player. He kind of got into a weird situation with Sacramento. They had point guards, then they traded Halley, they picked him up, and he's kind of like never gonna get the opportunity to start because they have Fox. But he's a good player. He brings a shit ton of energy, and he's a lockdown defender as a POA defender. I like his defense. So bring him into Atlanta, man. They got a nice little guard spot. Yeah, Sharif Cooper, man. I wanted him to be the greatest ever.
They
Man.
thought he was Trey Young.
They sure did. I remember this.
Sure.
I remember the graphics they were putting up
You
on
thought he was
Twitter.
Trae Young.
No, I didn't. No.
Joel.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Come on, bro.
Joel-
Just go along for the joke.
Joy used to text me and show me, be like, "Yo, bro, they think he's Trey." I'd be like, listen, man.
I used to laugh at the people that were hyping up Sharif Cooper.
Yeah, sucks, man. He's a G League legend.
He really is. He plays well there. So to recap this 2021 NBA redraft, the Riv, you're going to start it off because you had the first pick. Name the pick, the team, the number of the pick, the team, then the player you selected.
So with the first pick in the 2021 redraft for pick a side, I go with Cade Cunningham again for the Detroit Pistons.
You kind of threw this whole draft off with that.
I'm sorry. You knew I was going to do it.
I
Did
won't
anybody
say
think I wasn't
did
going to
you-
go?
I
Cade?
didn't know.
I know he was going to pick it.
I wasn't sure.
I
thought you
felt
might have got
were going to go Mobley. I know
Yeah.
you like Mobley.
Because you're a
a lot.
Mobley guy.
I am more.
Facts.
We all know. I'm a Cade guy first, man. I'm going Cade.
The second overall pick for the Houston Rockets at the time was Jalen Green. I'm going with a player that's on their team currently, Alperen Sengun. I think he's the best player in this draft class.
Third pick, I had the Cleveland Cavaliers. In reality, they took Evan Mobley. This time around, though, I'm going with Scotty Barnes.
I had the fourth pick with Toronto Raptors. Original pick was Scotty Barnes. He was selected one pick before me. Got it a little bit more obvious going Evan Mobley here.
With the fifth pick, the Orlando Magic take Franz Wagner, and he was there originally, and I think he is going to be a future All-NBA player. So I think I got good value here. And number 6, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they take Trey Murphy, the perfect complementary floor spacing athlete next to Shea.
At 7, the Warriors initially took Jonathan Kuminga. Unfortunately, that hasn't come into fruition for some. But I went with Austin Reeves, understanding I should have took Herb Jones.
At 8, the Orlando Magic took Franz Wagner. This draft class, though, I took Jalen Johnson.
With the 9th overall pick, the Sacramento Kings at the time still had the backcourt of Fox and Halliburton. I think this player I selected for them would fit with them or after once they make the Sabonis trade, and that's Herb Jones. You can always use a defensive stopper, and he's one of the best defenders in the league.
To be honest with you, I think that's the best pick of the redraft because the Kings needed that wing type perimeter defender, and that's exactly what Herb is.
So New Orleans had this pick first. They traded to Memphis. Memphis picked Zaire Williams, but I, on the other hand, took Jalen Suggs. And then the next pick, Charlotte, they take Jalen Green to create a electric backcourt.
With the 12th overall pick, I would have loved to have the pick between Jalen Green and Cam Thomas for whatever team I was drafting for. At number 12 is for the Spurs. I'm going with Cam Thomas. I would have drafted him over Jalen Green. I favor Cam Thomas just a little bit more. The tough shot making is something that I haven't seen in a while from a player his age. Very few players have shown that ability. I'm going with Cam Thomas at 12.
At 13, the Indiana Pacers took Chris Duarte. Here we go. This time around, though, I'm going with Quentin Grimes, someone that could play defense, could hit threes, and we know down the line that Indiana's going to need that.
Originally, the Warriors took Moses Moody with pick 14. And in our redraft, Moses Moody goes 14.
Okay, so number 15, the Washington Wizards select Jonathan Kuminga. My friend Jess is a huge Wizards fan, so I think he'll be jumping in happiness and probably in tears with that pick because he loves Kuminga for some reason. And then number 16, the Houston Rockets, they take Trey Mann. So I am still a believer. Maybe 1 year from now he doesn't qualify, but for now he qualifies and he has a lot of talent.
Was hoping Trey Mann dropped one more spot to me where I was picking for the Pelicans where they initially stole and got Trey Murphy here. But I went with Ayo Dosunmu because they needed a guard, and that's exactly what Ayo can do for them.
18, OKC took Trey Mann. In the redraft, I took Santi Aldama.
At number 19 for the Hornets, I'm taking a floor spacer and Corey Kispert.
At number 20, Atlanta at first took Jalen Johnson. He was unfortunately not on the board anymore, so I took Davion Mitchell with the 20th pick.
And that's going to do it for our 2021 NBA redraft. In the chat right now, when you guys are watching, put down what pick you thought was the best. You know, which pick do you think moves the needle for?
And what was the
team
This
worst?
guy
most?
wants everyone
Who
to
screwed
glaze
it up
Herb
again?
Johnson. Deserved.
Who screwed it up again? We know who screwed it up.
Listen.
We know who set the trend.
I seconds after I made the selection, realized I made a mistake. I wish you guys would have been like, yo, Drew, you could just go pick Herb Jones, but we can't live like that. So
How
it is what it
convenient.
is.
And that's
You
gonna
didn't
go
even
for
pick
the
Herb
redraft.
Jones. You didn't even pick Herb Jones.
No.
He didn't have a chance.
He did have a chance.
No, didn't he take her?
No, what happened was I took Reeves. Then
Oh,
you
I was
took
your team.
You
Johnson.
took Jalen
Orlando.
Johnson.
Made sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Low key, but even still, Herb Jones definitely could have fit the Magic too.
Yeah, you're right.
He could have. I would have loved Jalen Suggs to just be the pick at 8 for the Magic again.
Okay, which would have made
Franz and
sense.
Suggs.
But the opposite
Just
way.
keep the
Yeah,
core.
it's the same. The same picks they made.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly. So the next topic we're going to talk about are the Orlando Magic, unironically. And Wilder Adams, you're welcome to stay on for the entire show if you want to. If you're busy,
Sweet.
we understand.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about the Orlando Magic because right now the Orlando Magic are off to a 14-5 start, 9-game win streak, tying their franchise record. What do you think, guys, has been the biggest reason for their success this year? I'll start off with you, Drew.
So the funny thing about it is before the season started, Pat Bev was kind of having a little bit of an aneurysm at the thought of having the Magic having 2 players in the top 100, 2 players in the top 50. He said, hey, if you're going to have 2 players in the top 50 and Paolo and Franz, you better make the playoffs. And what they're doing right now is they're playing some of the best basketball in the NBA. And it starts on the defensive side of the ball. Now, watching some Magic tape, it's interesting to me because they're they just put out such a big lineup where Paolo, when he's on the court when Franz isn't, he can run the 3. When you have Paolo out there, you can have Mo Wagner also out there. And I keep butchering his name. I told my dad that I would try and get this right. Bitzade. How do I pronounce the center on the name?
Bataze. Yes.
So they were running a lineup of a Cole Anthony, a Jalen Suggs. You have Paolo running the 3, Mo at the 4, and then Bataze at the 5. That just speaks to how versatile we've seen Paolo be so far in his career. And it really helps where you're a 6'10 guy. You can handle the ball the way you do. And we're seeing him also be an excellent playmaker so far into the season. At 6'10, there really aren't that many guys that can play make as well as a Paolo Banchero. And then you add, of course, Franz and his development that we've seen where he hasn't been the most efficient 3-point shooter, but what he's great at is finishing at the basket. That's really where he's thrived. And of course, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the improvement from a Jalen Suggs. Shout out to John because he laid out the numbers perfectly from his rookie season to now. In 2022, 59% at the rim, 27% from the mid-range, 22% from 3. This season so far, 68% at the rim, 29% from mid. He definitely can improve there, but it's also how many shots you're really taking in the mid-range. But 38% from 3, that's where he's made his improvement. We've already known that Jalen Suggs can be an elite perimeter defender. The issue was always the offense, and it was lagging behind. Now that we're seeing him take this leap with Franz being the scorer that he is, with Paolo being just the all-around great player that he is, they're doing this also without Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter right now. They're playing excellent team basketball. It does start on the defensive side, but the Magic were called out early in the season by Pat Bev, and they've been answering the call. They've been playing some of the best basketball, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA.
So I look at the Orlando Magic currently, and the topic is the biggest reasons why they're off to a 14-5 start. I think these are the 3 biggest reasons why the Magic are playing great basketball this year. They just tied their longest win streak in franchise history with 9. They have a chance if they beat Brooklyn tonight to be at 10 wins in a row, which would be the franchise record. The 3 biggest reasons why the Magic are having success this season is, number 1, they have a defensive identity.
For sure.
3rd best defensive rating, allowing 108.3 points per 100 possessions. They forced the 2nd most turnovers per game at 16.6. And Jamal Mosley has instilled a culture of defense, and he has players that are willing to play it. It starts with the stars and Paolo and Franz, Jalen Suggs, who's been one of the best guards in the NBA at the perimeter. And I think he's the guy that deserves a ton of recognition for how much he's improved and for what he means to this Magic team being the heart and soul of what they do. Number 2, the continued growth of Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. Paolo this year is averaging 19, 6, and 4. He's shooting 46% from three. Some can say it's a bit unsustainable, but for right now, he's shooting the lights out of the basketball. And last year, that was something that he had to improve on. And Franz Wagner has scored 30 points in 3 straight games.
He's a hooper.
The only players in Magic franchise history that have had 3 games of scoring 30 points are Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway, Tracy McGrady, Dwight Howard, and now Franz Wagner. He's in company with some great Orlando Magic players. And number 3 is the bench output they're getting. They're scoring 47.2 points per game off the bench a night. It's led by Cole Anthony and Mo Wagner, who combined average 27.6 points per game. But the Joe Ingles free agent signing has been a great addition. You have Gary Harris, who is a knockdown shooter and good defender for this team. So I think those 3 reasons, defensive identity, their 2 stars in Paolo and Franz, and their bench are the reasons why they are currently 14-5 and the second best team in the East record-wise.
Yeah, I think you talked a little bit about the turnovers, but it's the extra possessions that they're able to get. It's the turnovers. They're also 11th in offensive rebounds and second in second chance points. So you have the stars playing at an incredible level. I think, there's a lot of things. You laid it out perfectly, those 3 points, but I think when we're talking about all teams, right? If your stars are playing at superstar levels and when your stars are able to level up, which I think we're seeing Paolo and Franz doing both at the same time in front of our eyes, this is the type of growth that you're able to see. And then also just their ability to share the ball. They're coming off back-to-back games given against the Wizards, but 35 assists, 34 assists. So this was both season highs, back-to-back games, 34, then broke it the next night with 35. On top of that, what's really impressed me, honestly, the most is in clutch time. In these close games, typically we see young teams not really know what to do in clutch situations, right? You could get very tense. You could get kind of ISO heavy and just give Paolo or Franz the ball and everyone else stands around. They've been 6-3 in clutch games this year. And then even the times when they're playing top opponents, I mean, they smoked the Celtics. They were able to beat the Nuggets. They're going up against top competition and
Beat the Lakers.
Sure, but we'll throw them in there. They don't look like a deer in headlights. They look like they belong. So I think when you look at team as the whole, it starts with the defensive identity, top 3 in defensive rating. But when you look at Paolo and his raw numbers, they haven't really dramatically stood out from last season. We just look at like points, rebounds, assists, but the 3-point percentage is an insane increase. Also averaging more than assist per game or 1 assist per game, but it feels like more than just 1 assist. When you watch him play, he saw that he definitely had flashes his rookie year, but just the leap from year 1 to year 2 as a playmaker, you mentioned it, Drew. There's not many guys who are 6'10" who can see the court as clearly as he can. He can see everything that's going on and he's able to execute it. You see whether, he's whatever type of playmaking they need, whether it's pick and roll, whether it's in the post, it doesn't matter. He's able to make the pass. I feel very comfortable with him, in that gotta have it situation where he's going to make the right play, whether he wants to take that shot or he's going to lay it off to one of his teammates to be able to make that in crunch time. So I was expecting the Magic to make a bit of a leap this season, right? I thought for sure they would be in the play-in conversation, but the fact that where they are right now, which is top 3 in the East, second, third seed, wherever they might be, and the most impressive thing to me, and maybe I just feel a little bit biased, is that going into the playoff series, I think everyone's looking at Boston, like who's going to beat the Celtics. The Bucks have kind of been up and down this season. Philly a little bit too, even though more well than not, but we know Boston has their number, but they own the Celtics team. And, I say it as jokes on Twitter saying that, I don't want to see them in the playoff series, but I'm sure everyone in Boston feels the same way. I don't think anyone's going to get too ahead of themselves once April comes around and we do see, or I guess maybe May, if they're going to keep this up in the second or third round, that they would beat Boston in a 7-game series. But their ability to beat top level competition with such a young team, it goes to show a great job that Mosley's doing, all of these young players buying in. You have guys like Jalen Suggs, even backup big. Mo Wagner's been phenomenal for them. You mentioned Joe Ingles, who's been a great kind of vet sign. You need one of those older guys on the team because they really don't have anyone else, that's older than like 25 outside of Joe Ingles. So even Jonathan Isaac, who's been, banged up, missed some time here and there, when he's on the court, you see the difference he can make on the defensive side of the court, being able to take on the best player from the other team. So they're just playing great team basketball. You're seeing the stars play like stars, and everyone's buying into this defensive identity they have. Sitting here, were they 14-5? Is that what their record sits? I mean, just incredible job from the Orlando Magic. And I don't think this is a flash in the pan, right? I think we've seen a team like the Rockets, who started off the year super hot, have kind of cooled down recently, which is fine. They're still a super young team. I don't really see the Magic. Maybe they're not going to be a top 3 seed, but I feel very comfortable with them being a top 6 seed at the end of the season.
James.
I think you guys made a ton of good points. And just to add to what you guys said, like, Mosley's the coach of the year, right?
Yeah.
I think as of right now,
Favorite.
he should be the favorite.
The hardest thing to do with young teams is establish a pecking order. That is literally the hardest thing to do. When you have a lot of talented guys and saying, look, we have 3 top 5 picks. I mean, Franz Wagner's not top 5. You know what I mean? Markelle Fultz is. But they have all these high draft picks. And it feels like everybody's bought into a role. And like Joel said, they have an identity. They have size. And on top of the defensive identity, they have fallen in love with just playing big. I mean, they're top 8 in field goal percentage, and they're doing that on low volume from 3. They're getting to the rim. Defensively, I do want the defensive rebounding to get better, but they're big. They have length. They have switchability, and they have a true 6-man in Cole Anthony. They have the heart of the team in Jalen Suggs. Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero are kind of like their Tatum and Brown, right? They just have a clear-cut identity, and with this like thing going, I'm very curious to see what happens with Markelle Fultz when he comes back. Are you willing to change the starting lineup? Like, Anthony Black's playing like 19 minutes a game as a starter, but is he going to just replace Anthony Black? Are you going to really mess with this right now? I have a question about that when everybody gets healthy. And this team does have real injury questions, but you can't really complain about what we're seeing.
Jonathan Isaac too, bro. It sucks. He gets on the court. Next thing you know, he's out for another few weeks. Or it's an ankle injury, which I'm assuming he's going to be out for some time, but just coming back off missing 2 games also. And in limited minutes too, you feel the defensive presence that is, averaging over a block a game, averaging almost a steal a game in 14 minutes. It's unfortunate that we can't see him stay on the court because we know defensively what he can provide.
When he's on the court, the Magic it's one of these two. It's either 93 points per 100 possessions or 98. Either or, the number is really eye-opening in terms of how he's impacting the defense. Just saying, the Magic are 11-2 when Anthony Black starts. Just saying.
Black's like that.
You thought the Nets would be better.
And you thought your boy Amen would have been better. And look, Anthony Black's on 11-2 when he's starting. That's what Anthony Black is.
Ugly ass.
When is he coming back? I feel like he had a sprained
He's about
ankle.
To play in the G League to ramp up.
So
That's a crazy hill.
So one's playing in
ankle
the G
injury.
League, another's 11-2 as a starter.
Can you stop being so disgusting?
That's
please?
a disgusting hill to die.
He's being rude to Anthony Black.
He's
I
not.
don't think he is.
Yes, he is.
I
don't
liked
think
it.
he
I
said
liked
it.
it.
All
I
he
liked
did
it.
was talk about the Magic.
Nah, he's being rude to
I
Anthony Black.
liked
And
Anthony
he's
Black.
he's always been rude to Anthony Black.
That's wrong.
In summer league, every time he missed, you would laugh in my face.
This is true.
I will be there. Yeah, I did.
He also
For
had
sure.
he also had at least
So you're
2
preying on
drinks
his
in him.
downfall.
That's the agenda you want to. You can't finish. You look
I mean,
terrible.
you can't tell me
You were
that you're
just-
not. You can't tell me
look
that you're not
terrible.
preying on somebody's downfall when each time he misses, you're laughing in my face.
I was laughing at your face at the game, but please add context to why I was laughing at your face. You were there glazing the fuck up. So what I was,
Anthony Black is like,
yeah. So
and he's
you know,
11-2 as a
Anthony
point
Black would
guard. Other than
do a
Magic this
simple
year.
drop pass, and you'd be like, best pass
Nothing
I've ever
was simple.
seen.
He was
when he
playing
missed,
awesome.
I decided to laugh in your face.
He was playing
Yeah.
awesome in summer league. He was
Listen,
doing his thing.
you're already on disgusting agendas right now. Eamon hasn't played in mad long. He's hurt.
I fuck with him, man.
Nah.
By the way,
It's over.
I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
but you was always comparing the two. You was.
I mean, is that fair? They're both.
I wasn't. He's
Yes,
sick.
you
Drew was here for all
When
of
I
that,
selected Anthony Black number 4, you laughed.
so I didn't laugh. I just said I would have preferred Eamon.
And you laughed.
No, you didn't select Anthony Black at 4. I thought you selected Anthony Black at 6 for the Magic.
Got him.
No, at number 4 for
You had
Amen. In the original draft, we had
you did a couple
we had an
mocks.
original mock draft.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I
But when
selected Amen Thomas. I selected Anthony Black at number 4.
No, you selected Anthony Black at 6.
Our second mock draft, we had
So
an
you flipped.
original mock draft. I didn't flip. It's just that I didn't have the Rockets pick at 4.
Really?
Oh.
Yes.
Don't
That's why
really.
when I
Oh,
got-
you're 100% right because I
Yeah.
remember Pierre having an aneurysm
Yeah,
about
he
it.
had the
Yeah,
not
yeah.
me. He had the aneurysm.
Apologize, Joel. You're 100% right.
Let's talk about the Orlando Magic because this became a Eamon versus Black thing. Don't know
Respect Anthony
why.
Black, man.
No, what is supposed to?
Yeah.
All you said was, "Yo, remember when you said the Nets would be better?"
That's all. I brought up the Nets.
Remember you
He
said
brought-
the Bulls would be better?
Yeah, lost 100%. Now I want them to lose every game. Here we go. Talk about the Orlando Magic, man. Another young team coming up into the reins. You know, I think You guys mentioned it. You Dehls and Joel specifically. Energy. Their energy has just been on another level. They even at home games, you can see the energy. You can see the fans getting into it. You can see the energy built off the teammates. This is a defense that's number 6 in points per play in a half court. Like, this defense is stout. Defensively, they get into it. In transition, it relates the same. They're number 5 in points per possession in the transition. Like, and even like this defense carries over. The one maybe outlier is they're not a great rim defense. That's one thing that they're not great at, but they're pretty solid in every department. And this defense is a defense that can compete in the playoffs. They from guy 1 to guy 5, they're balled in, they communicate, they connect on every way. And to see a young team this balled in defensively, like we look at Houston and they have veterans out there that play significant minutes, and I think for Orlando, like you guys mentioned, they have like 2 guys that are old, and Gary Harris, I don't even think he's considered old. So it's really just Joe Ingles, and everybody else that's playing significant heavy minutes are young as shit. And they are, like James mentioned, the pecking order, and they're balled in from top to bottom, from coaching to the best player to the 15th player. Like, they're balled in from top to bottom, and it starts on the defensive end. The hardest thing he mentioned is getting the pecking order. But I think another thing that's extremely hard is getting a young team like this to buy in defensively, buy in at this elite rate. Like, they force a shit ton of turnovers. They get stops. And it's interesting because this is a team that doesn't generate a great offense. And I think that's probably the one thing that's probably going to hinder them, that the fact that they're not a consistent, efficient offense. And that's going to come with time, and I think as soon as Fultz gets back, that will help. I do think he's the guy that's probably going to get moved down the road. I think they'll just ride with Anthony Black, Jalen Suggs. I think that, and Cole Anthony, I think that'll be their 3. But until Black is officially ready, they'll ride out with Fultz. He's on a nice, calm contract too. It's nothing big. But Orlando, man, if they win tonight, that'd be the record for sure. But just like Dehls mentioned, this team gives you nightmares because defensively they can stop anybody. And Boston is the best team in the league, best team in the East, and they give them extreme fits. And this is a defense that no matter how small, how big they play, they can compete with any team defensively. And I think, they can get better offensively. That comes with time. I don't know if they'll be able to continue this insane rate, at the top of the East. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I definitely think they'll make the playoffs. But to just be this young, about 3-4 years into your rebuild, maybe a little long, I don't remember how, but to be this early into your rebuild, to get back to the top of the East is something good to see, especially with a team that is probably going to have cap, hasn't paid anybody major money, still has their picks, still has young players on the, like, they still have an extreme, like, nobody has reached their peak. Like, this is something that's going to be a beautiful thing. And, we talk about young teams like OKC, who has SGA. We talk about Houston, who has Sengun and Jalen Green. We talked about Detroit because they have all Cade, Osar, and Jalen Duren. But, like, Orlando is the one team outside of probably OKC that's constantly at the top of the East right now at a rapid rate while playing elite defense, and they haven't even peaked yet. So it's interesting to see how this all warps out. But I do like what I'm seeing from Orlando. They've exceeded my expectations. I had them as a playing team. They've completely debunked that and said, no, fuck that. We're a playoff team. One of the 6 best teams in the East. And in the East, which, like, outside of Boston and Milwaukee, because they have Giannis and Dame, there's a lot of parity. Like, you like Philly and you like Embiid and Maxey, but you still think the top 2 teams are Boston and Milwaukee, right?
What about Miami?
Miami's also another one, but like, you still have the young teams like Indiana. You still have the teams like Atlanta. Like, there's no clear shot at that 5th, 6th spot. Like, there's a wide open. Yeah, the Knicks are up there. There's a wide open spot where Orlando can jump in for sure.
Cleveland been playing some mid ball.
They haven't been healthy, but Orlando is a team that can jump into that whole second tier list with Cleveland, with Atlanta, New York, and stuff, and be like, no, we're another team that can come up. And they probably have the best situation out of all those teams because they don't have no main cap allocated to anybody. They have their picks, and they have young players that haven't reached their peak. So shout out to Orlando for sure.
I feel like a big reason why this is most surprising to a lot of people is because last year the defense was 18th in the NBA. This year, it being a top 3 unit, with the idea of coming into the season, we did have concerns about the offense. We didn't know who would be the primary guy that would still get theirs. And we see early on in the season, the strength has not been their offense. I think why it's so surprising is that they've become one of the best defenses in basketball in such a short amount of time with these young guys, which is why I felt like next year was going to be the year I was ready for the Orlando Magic to make that OKC type top 6 push. For them to do it this quickly is even more impressive because, like Riv mentioned, them and how young they are, and for them to show this much maturity on the defensive side of the ball, it speaks to how great of a job they're doing over there in Orlando.
I think the one thing with the Magic that probably the reason why people they have detractors is because, and you mentioned it, the offense is bottom 20. Right now, they don't shoot the ball well. That's with Paolo shooting 46% from three, which probably is not sustainable. They have kind of made up for the fact of their lack of shooting with the rim pressure and getting to the free throw line and scoring efficiently around the basket. So, the three most efficient shots in basketball are layups, free throws, and threes. If you have two of the three, I think what they're doing can be sustainable. And on defense, I think the most impressive showing from them defensively was when they shut down Indiana's offense in a matchup they had a couple weeks ago when the Pacers, number one offense in the league, and the Magic were just making everything tough on them. I think the Magic developing this fast is nice for the league because in the Eastern Conference, there really isn't a team that has made a leap like that in a while. For the past couple of years, we know it's the Celtics, we know it's the Bucks,
supposed to be Atlanta,
and Philadelphia. Yeah, Atlanta made the ECF one time, but I don't know what type of run that was.
No, I said it was supposed to be.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. So the Bucks, the Celtics, we know they've been at the top. The Heat have been at the top. The Sixers have always been that team that failed to meet expectations. But for a young team that's up and coming, there has been no young team that has really done it, and we've taken them seriously. I think the Magic are the next young team in the East that we're going to start taking seriously as a team that can compete with these upper echelon ones, not just a team like the Knicks who made the playoffs, but the Knicks don't have the star power per se to match up with these guys.
And I thought it was interesting because I was looking at, going into my little stat bag. They're 20th in points per play in the half court, but they're 4th in the league in offensive rebounding percentage. And they're 2nd in the league in putbacks.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like they get a shit ton of extra possessions, and it's still not a good, I don't want to say not a good offense, but they still don't generate a good enough offense, which is interesting.
Do you think that'll limit them? Because I think we all agree top 6 seed rest of the season. We think they'll be playoff locked. So I guess in the playoffs, is it sustainable where if they're going to continue to have this top 3, top 5 level defense, but if they're going to struggle in the half court setting, or they be able to get past even the
That's
first
the one
round?
thing why I think you shouldn't be nervous, because as great as they are defensively, they're not going to be able to keep up with y'all in the grand scheme of things on an offensive rate.
Well, I'm just saying Boston aside, but like first round, say they're going up against Indiana, for example, or
that's the Heat. It's a weird question because that's Indiana and Orlando is two inexperienced teams kind of just going to war, and the issue with Indiana is the opposite of the issue with Orlando. Indiana can't stop a nosebleed, and Orlando isn't as efficient as Indiana. But I don't know. I think the way
matchup based.
Yeah, the way Orlando plays defense though kind of gives me playoff vibes, like grind out, aggressive, cause turnovers, up in your face. So I think the defense will be there enough. It's just about if they can, have a guy in the fourth quarter, like Boncaro is supposed to be the guy. Because even if I'm not mistaken, the Lakers weren't a great offense in the playoffs last season. They relied a lot on their defense. Of course they have LeBron and AD, so obviously, offense is not to worry about.
Henry's.
But okay.
Generational efficiency in WCF.
No wins. But I think it's happened before, but it's about, the type of player, who's gonna have that insane level peak in the playoffs.
So when it comes to the Magic, I think they're an example of a team that's rebuilt correctly. The Pistons have not rebuilt the best way.
Not great.
I think 3, 4, how many years the Pistons have been rebuilding, they feel like they're still stuck at the same spot. Now, Wilder Adams, I'll start with you. What do you think has been wrong with the Pistons and why they have failed in this rebuild that they have?
Rose about to start hating. Here we go.
Okay, before I get to that point, I just want to ask one question regarding the last topic, just like a toxic hypothetical. So 2022 NBA redraft, number 1 pick. Who does Orlando take? Real quick.
I think it's still Paolo.
It's still Paolo.
Who's in that? Who's
it's Paolo in the top 2?
So you keep asking this fucking question. You've been asking on Twitter. I don't know.
I just had this conversation with my dad. I think it's with the idea that Paolo can handle the ball more.
Can he?
I think so.
More than
I'll go Shat. I won't even cap to you. Like
I think Chet's going to be the better player.
defensively, he's great, and then offensively, what he gives you as a shooter and a ball handler, he's not a bad pass. Yo, listen.
Paolo has the passing. Paolo obviously can't handle the ball. He's shooting the ball at a crazy clip. It's unsustainable could be the word, but still, he's progressed tremendously.
I might go Chet because the defense. I might go Chet.
I mean, clearly Paolo has shown that he can be a part of a top defense in the league.
Chet too, though. Like,
no,
okay,
Chet's different.
Yeah,
Chet,
but
we don't understand that. But
it's close. It's close for sure. If Banchero, I don't know. Honestly, I go Chet.
It's also, let's look at OKC in that situation. Chet has been amazing, but he also was a perfect plug and play for what they needed.
Yeah. Chet's probably their second best scorer right now.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Is Banchero their number one scorer?
He is. Well,
so?
Franz, I guess, but at the same time, I think with how much responsibility he has offensively, I would still go Paolo.
They're interchangeable.
Yeah.
Definitely interchangeable. That's a tough question because Chet has been otherworldly. Like
Corey Joseph minutes. Sorry.
Chet has been otherworldly. I think I would still go with Paolo Banchero because I think he just, to me, looks and fits the feel of the Orlando Magic right now. But Chet Holmgren, I think, is going to be phenomenal. He's going to be somebody who's going to be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, and he's going to give you amazing offense. Like, he's going to be somebody that averages 20 points per game and can handle the ball and can score in a variety of different ways. I think it's really tough. I think if we're just banking on what their skill set is right now, I think Chet Holmgren is the better player. But I think Paolo Banchero, what he can develop into, is what I'm taking.
All right, so
one question, though.
Oh, never mind. What's up?
Yeah, this is one quick point. How toxic would it be if Chet, as the skinny number one pick, got hurt and missed the whole rookie year? I think the toxicity would be crazy, and I think for that reason I'd leave Paolo. But for Detroit, it's
there you go.
I was watching a game 2 days ago. I think it was against the Lakers, and it gave me flashbacks of my Timberwolves childhood because it was like I watched like 10 straight possessions of the Lakers turning the ball over and getting a transition dunk. It looked like a JV team playing like an NFL team, NBA team. And I was just like, I couldn't help but call my dad and laugh and said, if you want some flashbacks to my childhood, turn on a Pistons-Lakers game right now. It was crazy. But everything's wrong with this team. Everything's wrong with this team. I liked the idea initially of Monty Williams saying, you know what, we're just going to lean in being big and physical as hell to start the year, right? With Dern at the 5, Stewart at the 4, Thompson at the 3, just 3 guys who give you 10 rebounds a game with Cade at the point. Like, I like that physicality mindset, but the floor spacing was just so nasty, and it messed up everything. Like, I understood the Cade Cunningham, defenders in that regard. It is some of the worst floor spacing I've ever seen on an NBA court. Because as much as I love Sir Thompson, his jump shot is broke, man. Like, I'll beat the guy in horse right now. Like, it's that. So that was a problem. Stewart is like, you'd think he's a shooter for a big, but he's not actually a shooter. So if he's your floor spacer, that's a problem. And, missing Morris and Bogdanovich is really considerable. Just having stable veterans around these kids. I'm really curious to see how they develop with some voices like that, unless the Pistons trade them at the deadline, which would make some sense. And, it's just the identity thing, the Jaden Ivey stuff. Like, I don't really know what Monty Williams is trying to do. There have been conversations about his lack of communication, not telling Ivey he'd start the year on the bench, then just throwing him on the bench. There's real questions about Monty Williams, not as a basketball mind, but more as a leader connecting to his players. And I think the Ivey situation represents that. So it's just been a messed up situation. The identity they've been throwing, it's really good for one way, but they're just so bad for floor spacing and maturity. It's a problem. And Cade's had better moments recently, but it's been up and down for him for sure. I think it took like the end of November to shoot over 50% in a game, which is really bad. So yeah, the Pistons, I feel really bad for Pistons fans because I have some Pistons friends, and that's a cool fan base.
Yeah. It feels like if Monty and the Pistons both said, could we just nix this deal and both get out of it? It feels like they would. I mean, it might be too early to say that, but the Pistons just have so many issues. I mean, they're bad on offense. They're bad on defense, second most turnovers per game. But it's really just the team construction, right? Because you select Cade number 1 overall a few years ago. Rookie season, definitely showed some flashes. He was pretty damn good. Second year, he gets hurt. And then this third year coming back, it's just such a not different team, but the way they constructed this team, it almost felt like they forgot they had Cade on their team, because in the perfect scenario, you have Cade, being the main facilitator, and you have shooters around him. And like you mentioned, like, sure, like Isaiah Stewart as a big is can shoot, but you're looking at the rest of this team. Outside of Marcus Sasser, there's really nobody that who's been balling out. Shout out to Marcus Sasser. There's really nobody else on this team who's consistently hitting outside jump shots. And then it just makes it look worse on Cade Cunningham. And now all of a sudden you're questioning your number 1 overall pick because the efficiency has been dog shit. The turnovers, he's averaging nearly 5 turnovers per game. And it almost questions the entire construction of this team just because you don't have shooters around him. So I think at the top, there's an issue with Monty Williams, who is going from the Suns team, who were championship contenders, to now one of the youngest teams in the league. I do think getting Bogdanović back, which should be within these next couple games, if I remember correctly. I thought there was a chance he was going to play that last game. Getting him back will obviously be a huge help just to the offense. But it feels like Monty, they gave him this huge contract for a reason, right? They had to, I don't want to say beg, but more or less say, Monty, we're going to give you the largest contract in NBA history for a coach because we need somebody that's going to have the leadership to put into these young players. And we haven't really seen that for Monty. I know, Joel, you've had a tweet or maybe a TikTok about the Jaden Ivey situation. You probably talk about that a bit too, but it's a bit alarming to give this guy all of this money. And so far you are 2-15. I don't think any of us were expecting the Pistons to be, this 500 team, but I think we were all expecting them to be like, you know what, when we're in like January, February, could they be in that play-in race? And then when the deadline comes around, maybe move some pieces and they fall off, maybe kind of similar to the Jazz of last year before they had sell-offs and, obviously sat some of their players down the stretch too. But the fact that they are so terrible, they didn't win a game in November. This is a rebuild. But rebuilds year by year should get gradually better. Right now, it feels like they're going backwards, and it feels like this team has no identity. Cade feels like he's lost. Asar's been phenomenal so far, but there are questions about his offensive game. I feel bad for Pistons fans, too, because after you got Monty, you've had all these high draft picks. It felt like this is the year where you can at least be competitive with teams, but you're getting blown out by 30, 40 points left and right. You just lost by 20 to the Washington Wizards, who are the second worst team in the NBA. It feels like they are so much worse than everybody else, and there's not really a direction which way they want to go.
This is an embarrassment. 16-game losing streak. Half of those have been uncompetitive basketball games. Monty recently benched Jaden Ivey, and he benched Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren, I think, is their second best player, and he benched him for Isaiah Livers and Killian Hayes. So our lineup was Killian Hayes, Livers, Cade Cunningham, I think Isaiah Stewart, and somebody else.
That shit hurt watching that game.
That's fucking horrendous.
I
bored.
Look at a couple things wrong with the Pistons. One is they don't have an identity. Monty Williams was supposed to help in that regard. He became the highest paid coach in the NBA. I think at the time when he got that contract, we were all pretty optimistic that he can maybe change the culture of the Pistons, but it's clear that right now he's an overpaid coach. He did not deserve that money that he got. Making him the highest paid coach in the NBA when he's not one of the better coaches in the NBA, in my opinion, I think was a bad and terrible decision. Troy Weaver has hit on some draft picks, but the free agent moves have not been there. I look at a team in the Pistons and I say, what's the best way to get our first overall pick playing better? What's our major issue? The major issue is spacing. They got Joe Harris. They got Monte Morris. Alec Burks has been great off the bench. If I'm Detroit, I'm not continuing to start Isaiah Stewart and Killian Hayes. I'm starting Cade with Monte Morris or Alec Burks. I'm starting Joe Harris, who they got in the offseason. I'm starting Jalen Duren. I'm starting shooters around Cade. Even if it's a bad team, optimize your lineup to give Cade the best chance to succeed. I think the talent is not there on the team, but I think they're not being coached well either. And I do kind of feel like after how Phoenix ended for Monty, he checked out. I think the only reason he came back to coaching was because the Pistons gave him an offer that he could not refuse. I don't think his heart is in it. I don't think his mind is in it. And I know those are some serious things to say about somebody, But to me, that's just how it feels like from the outside looking in. It feels like he checked out of coaching, and he probably should have taken a break for his own sake and for the sake of where this organization wants to head as a whole. And then the major glaring problem is it's not, I wouldn't say it's the number one problem, but I think it's an issue. Cade Cunningham is not living up to the bill of the first overall pick. And is it fair that those expectations were thrust upon him? It's not. But right now, even with the situation not being ideal, he's not playing to a level that you feel comfortable for where he was drafted. He's averaging 7 assists, but he's averaging 4.5 turnovers per game. He's averaging 22, shooting 41% from the field, 34% from three. His free throw shooting has been efficient. The saving grace of his game right now is his mid-range shot. He's shooting 41% from the mid-range, which is good, but it's not exceptional. 34% on above the break threes. He's shooting 37% on jump shots, and he's shooting 36% in the paint. Even with the lack of spacing around him, I still think his finishing numbers are lackluster, and it points to the lack of athleticism in his game. He's not able to rise up with big men and finish over them. He struggles to finish through contact, and he doesn't have the quickest first step to beat defenders to the basket, so he often settles for jump shots. I think Cade was thrust into a bad situation, but he's not playing at a level that makes the situation any better. And I just think the identity of this entire team is just lacking as a whole. And you're right. Like, if Monty can want out, Pistons will want out, I think that's the best thing for them. But it's just been bad move after bad move. And just really the unwillingness to move on from a player who has shown us to not be good for years, and Killian Hayes. I mean, Killian Hayes has not been good for years.
He got better last year a little bit.
He did.
And that's what got people back on.
And he's still starting. I don't understand this. And Monty has tweaked these lineups all year, but he's tweaked it back to the same old thing that wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I look at Ime Udoka and what he did with the Rockets so early on. There's no reason that the Pistons shouldn't be at least a little bit better than what they currently are.
I don't disagree with you that much. I will say the veteranship that was added to the Rockets definitely did give them a boost. Fred VanVleet, all-star level player. We've seen what he can do with the basketball in his hands. Obviously, he's very good. Dylan Brooks, who has been the surprise for me personally, but still on the defensive side, we knew he can give you great defense. The shooting is what has been a surprise for me at least. So adding the veteranship there definitely helps. Look at the Pistons. You mentioned their veterans already. Alec Burks, Bogdanovich, who has not played a game so far this season, Amonte Morris. There's really a lack of a real leadership presence in that locker room right now. And that should have been Monty, but right now it seems as if he's having difficulty getting to the young kids. I'll say this to the Pistons fans that are watching. I think that there is more talent on this team than what the record is providing. I love that we're seeing Ausar really commit to the hustle part of basketball, rebounding the basketball, steals, of course, defense. In my opinion, coming in, I felt as if he was the best defensive player so far. He has been tremendous in that regard. Offense was always a question. He's showing that as well. Jalen Duren, big body, can obviously handle the ball down low, can also is just a presence down low. And Cade Cunningham, who I think is a lot better than what is putting forth right now. It's just a lot is being put on his shoulders. There is talent on this team. It's just a matter of refining it. And like we all are trying to say, find an identity. Look at the Orlando Magic. They aren't the most talented offensive team by any means, but they've committed to defense. Now, that might be the only reason they continue to send out Killian Hayes, because on the defensive side of the ball, he's a solid defensive player. But again, when you provide such limited offense, like we've seen with an Ausar, who we have to group into that conversation, like a Killian Hayes, it becomes very difficult to find that identity because there's just such a, to a degree, random assortment of players on the squad. But I think of when you've used with the picks that you've used in the draft, Cade was a good selection. Jaden Ivey for 5. You wanted Jaden Ivey. You thought that you'd have to trade up to 4 to get him. You stuck around at 5. You got your guy. Ausar Thompson, another solid selection as well. Jalen Duren, getting him in the draft. He was the 10th pick, 11th pick in the draft. One of the two. That was obviously a solid selection too. It's just a matter of refining the squad. You used the word optimizing a lineup to best suit something. I think it's find an identity, whether it's defense or offense. Right now, it's clearly not offense. You're bottom 5 in offense. You're bottom 6 in defense. You're bottom 2 in net rating. Figure something out before it's too late, because the young guys, it would be a shame to develop them in such a way that is detrimental to their future careers. And with Jaden Ivey right now, someone who showed that he could be a playmaker last season, took point guard responsibility, and when Cade Cunningham went down, now he's running with the second unit. To me, you want to put Cade Cunningham in a position to score the basketball and get Jaden Ivey back on the court, who also is not shooting the basketball at a bad clip at 37, 38% from 3. Let him run the point. Have Cade focus on scoring, which is clearly what he's trying to do right now. 7 assists is great, but that also would help limit turnovers as well. It's just getting the best players on the court right now, like you say. And it'd be a shame if Jaden Ivey, who played so much last year and was really strong and also aiding not just him, but Jalen Duren also down the stretch of the season, it's tough to look at this Pistons team right now and feel any type of optimism. However, I still think the talent is there. It's just a matter of finding the right lineups, and that starts and ends with Monty Williams.
Did you guys know that Asar Thompson is actually in the 61 percentile in mid-range jump shots?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he takes around 57th percentile of attempts. He's in the 61st percentile. I didn't know that either until I looked. So the 3-point percentage, dog shit, 0 percentile though. He's a 14% 3-point shooter. Needs to work in on that. The Detroit Pistons, man. It's been hard. I'll be honest. It's been a struggle to watch games, especially since the first 4 games, it was vibes. And then after that, it's just been downhill from there.
Because K was top 5 in scoring, top 5 in assists.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned veterans, but their veterans haven't played at all. So Houston's veterans have played, and they've been mainly a significant part of their rebuild, of course, and Single, and of course, and Jabari and all them other players. But their veterans have played. Detroit's been banged up. That's not really an excuse. I'm just giving context. Detroit's definitely team has been banged up. Bogdan hasn't played. Monte Morris hasn't played. Burks is in and out the lineup. Duren was playing great, got hurt, hasn't been the same since.
Yep.
The one bright spot at the moment that I don't think has a new weakness is Asar. I think his 3-point shot we knew was going to be bad coming in, but everything else has been great. The rebounding, the defense, the hustle, the finishing at the rim, he's at 60%. I think that's pretty good, especially in the league with a lot of big men and all that good shit. So I think that's good. Just top to bottom, man. Troy Weaver to Monty Williams to Cade to Ivy. When you're 2-13 or 14 or whatever it is, when you have 2 wins and you haven't won a game since the second week of the season, and that last win, if I'm not mistaken, was the Bulls or the Hornets. When it's those 2 wins, I think you got to chalk it up to just everybody. I don't think you can. I give Cade discourse pushback when you're just talking about his individual game, but in terms of just a team impacting wins, it starts from everybody. Everybody is not playing good. And you mentioned it, Monty's lineups have been questionable. They haven't been good. And I agree. You draft the number 1 pick. He wasn't your number 1 pick. You obviously weren't there. The number 1 pick missed mainly last year. Ivy plays last year. He was great for the half part of it. Showed he can be a point guard. Then the offseason comes. Apparently, Jaden Ivey's coming off the bench. Okay, Jaden Ivey's coming off the bench, but I think 3-point shooting is an issue. I think spacing is an issue, but having another ball handler that's actually an impactful player is also an issue. You can't just have Cade out there running pick and roll all day. It's not going to work because eventually they're going to know you have All-Star sitting in the corner knowing he can't shoot threes. That's also not a recipe for success. You have the only other threat with the ball in Jaden Ivey not playing with Cade, which is an issue. Killian Hayes is not a threat with the ball. Nobody is looking at him as a threat in a scoring purpose with the ball. So you have him starting with Cade. Okay, whatever. And then Monte Morris and Bogdan haven't played. And then they just don't give any effort. I mean, it's one thing to be 2-14 if you've lost about 10 or 11 games in the close margins, but you've gotten blown out like 80% of your games, 30 points, 40 points, 50 points. And I've seen a lot of trade Cade, trade Ivy. I doubt they trade their top 5 picks from last year and the year before that. I think they'll let it ride out for another year. But drastic moves need to be changed. I don't even know if trading the veterans makes sense, because then you'll be stuck in the offseason on a team that I don't think nobody's going to want to go to at the moment, with just a shit ton of money. So I think at this moment, you got to start looking at the mirror from everybody. Monty, you got to look at yourself. I think him in Detroit gained this connection because they helped with his wife with something, which she had cancer, and they helped him out a lot. And then, of course, they gave him that money. So they have that connection there and why he wanted to go there. But at the same time, he has not connected at all with the young players. They have not been able to put on a good product. And I agree. I feel bad for Detroit, because I think Detroit deserves that at some point. And we've seen rebuilds like Houston getting better. We've seen rebuilds like Orlando making a jump. OKC has made a jump. Like the Knicks have made a jump. Like you've seen all these. Cleveland has made a jump. Atlanta has made a jump. You've seen all these rebuilds finally find a piece, and you kind of sitting here with like, we have a shit ton of talented players. Like I don't think nobody thinks Cade, Ivy, Asar, Duren aren't talented. I think they're talented, but it's like, when are you guys gonna come together and put it together? And when is the coach gonna realize I need to maximize these 4 players? Bringing Ivy off the bench isn't maximizing Cade. It isn't maximizing Ivy. I understand if you want to sit out Duren because he's been hurt. I get that he hasn't been playing like himself. But putting Asar in the corner isn't maximizing Asar. It's not at all. Like, so realistically, I think Monty stays for another year. But Detroit right now is just in a shit show. And honest to God, it's funny as shit. They have one of the toughest schedules in like December. So the shit is not going to get better at all.
The hardest schedule remaining.
Yeah, it's like not going to get better at all. So it's like now you got to start looking like we lost most of the games we probably could have won. And you got some couple bad ones. Like you choked the game to Portland. You got a couple games you could have won. Now we're going into the toughest part of our schedule. We don't know when these veterans are going to come back. Bogdan might come back, but nobody's going to play better. And James mentioned it. Cade has been playing better the last 3 games, but the nutty-ass turnovers, the shot selection sometimes get poor, but I understand it sometimes, especially with Ivy. The frustration is there. Like, Monty has not put out a good scheme or put out a good game plan, and these guys are pretty much just going out there and doing whatever. So Detroit has to get that shit together, honestly.
Going in the opposite direction, a team that has been great for a long time, the Warriors, they have a dynasty. And a lot of people are putting into question whether or not this dynasty is on the way out the door. If these are the last times we're going to see them on the show, really being the main event of it. Now, Riv,
talk to me.
What do you think about the Warriors? We got a report earlier today from Zach Lowe that they have no interest in trading for or trading away Klay Thompson.
Right.
And that's been somebody who's been the heart of a lot of criticism with his play this year. Do you think this Warriors dynasty is over with how it's currently constructed?
How it's currently constructed? Absolutely. I think I am the loudest when it comes to Klay disrespect, but I don't think he's the number one issue, but I do think he's a part of the issues for sure. I think Steph Curry and I think stubbornness is the word that comes with the fact, like that's the main word in all this, stubbornness. Steve Kerr's stubbornness to continue to ride with his 3 guys. Steph Curry's stubbornness to continue to ride out with his 2 guys. And then this team's stubbornness to kind of realize the issues, realize when they're at fault, look at themselves in the mirror. Draymond Green, for example, Klay Thompson, for example. So the word of the day for this topic specifically is stubbornness. I think that's constructed. You got to look at the West and think this is not a team that can compete. Like you have Steph Curry, who's playing at an MVP level. He's playing like a top 5 player in the world. You have Draymond, you have Klay. If you have a top 5 player in the world, your mindset is compete for a championship. So if you think, I'm
not sure the maps last year.
Cook. But if you think that this is a team constructed to win in the West right now, I think you got to start really looking at yourself in the mirror. I've never known the Warriors to make a move. Mike Dunleavy's a new guy, so you might see a new regime. They've been linked to Toronto too many times, but there's just not enough energy. You like going back to that Clippers game, you saw when the young players were out there, you just saw a different energy. You saw this team didn't look old. It's a different vibe. Sometimes you got to just trust in your gut and trust in your young players. And I think Kerr sometimes, even in that Kings game, like Moody was hot. He takes Moody out. And then after in the press game, he's like, I wanted to trust the veterans. But it's like you keep making the same mistake over and over and over again. Why do you keep doing it? And you're supposed to be this experienced head coach. Steve Kerr is definitely getting a shit ton of the blame. But I think as currently constructed, this team is a team that can't compete with the Lakers, the Phoenixes, the Denvers of the world. This team can barely compete with the Minnesotas and the OKCs of the world. It's a team that lost 4 straight games to those 2 teams back to back to back to back. So you got to make a move. And if you don't got to make a move, you got to get better. And I don't think this team has the talent to get better at the moment.
It's tough because we had a BR stream right after the Kings game, the day after. So emotions were a little bit different. You had a nice one against Clippers. That's going to make things feel a little bit better. But what we basically all said on the BR stream was there's a couple of ways to look at it, right? Number one, Steph Curry is going to be loyal to his guys, right? Sure. I think that report from Lowe, I don't think it's just a coincidence that Klay Thompson has been, struggling, even though he was solid that first half against the Kings. But throughout the season has been struggling. I do think that was Steph Curry either maybe a little leak or telling upper management saying, Klay Thompson's my guy. As long as I'm here, Klay is going to be with me. And, we've seen Klay Thompson in the past, of course, be integral to playoff runs, to championship runs alongside Draymond Green, all the veterans you have had. But if you want to continue to be a dynasty, I think there's going to be moments where you have to, move on from some players, because we know Steph Curry, he's playing an MVP level. He's one of the best players in basketball and doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon. But to just assume that Klay Thompson at his age, coming off multiple injuries, even though we're a couple of years past that, is just going to turn into the Klay Thompson of old, where he was, the second best 3-point shooter in the world, where he was this, top end level defender on the perimeter. I don't think we're ever going to get that Klay Thompson back. And Draymond Green, who, defensively has done his thing. And to his credit too, he talked about this in the offseason, kind of his reluctancy to shoot. I feel like we've seen that kind of come back to a median this season.
He had 4 threes in his first quarter.
He had 4 threes.
Yeah, he's
okay. Yeah. I mean, he hasn't hit a lot of 4 threes in a quarter, but
it's lit. God. So lit.
It is huge that Draymond Green is taking those threes and making those threes, because that could really change the ceiling of your offense. But the fact that Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, of course, that 2022 finals run was, just as important as damn near everybody outside of Steph Curry, who was the engine, of course. The fact that he's struggling, and then you have the reports coming out of Klay Thompson and the contract weighing on him, the Andrew Wiggins situation about being out of shape. You have to have loyalty in the NBA to an extent. But I do think it's okay to move off players, right? Completely different circumstance, because the Celtics never won championships like the Warriors did. They never had a dynasty, but everyone was so loyal, me included, to guys like Marcus Smart, to guys like Rob Williams, who were they're Celtics. Like, they've always been there. Same thing with Klay Thompson. Same thing with Andrew Wiggins, although I wouldn't move on him quicker than I would Klay Thompson, where these guys as they are this team, they are Warriors, they are Celtics. But then you see Boston, who, listen, you moved up Marcus Smart, but this team with Porzingis looks completely different. And Rob Williams, who, I hope he stays healthy, of course. That was another concern where, when he's on the court, he's phenomenal, can be that rim protector, can catch lobs, can give you energy. But you do see that, listen, it hurts missing Rob, but we still have the best record in the NBA. And you're not, chomping at the bit to go out and make a move for someone, even though they do need to back up big. I think what I'm trying to say is the Warriors are going to be loyal to their guys. Steph Curry is going to be loyal to their guys. But if they want to continue this dynasty, I do think they need some infusion of new talent. I do think Klay Thompson's best days are likely behind him. I think Andrew Wiggins can get back to that level of player we've seen from 2022. He's still young. He still has the, defensive prowess to be that type of guy. But the Warriors we see right now is the same question that I had coming into the season, which was who is going to be that secondary shot maker, shot creator next to Steph Curry. I don't think they currently have this on the team. And now you have injuries piling up, even though Chris Paul isn't so serious. Gary Payton's going to be sidelined indefinitely. So I'd like to see some Brandon minutes, some Moses Moody more minutes, just to get a bit of we're seeing it here.
Yeah.
This is, and I'm happy. No, I'm happy Steve Kerr is staying by his word when he said, I messed up. I watched that Kings game back. I screwed up. I should have played Moody down the stretch. I'm happy he's seen some of the mistakes he's made, giving some of these younger guys who can hit shots, who can defend, rather than just going with the vets over and over again.
When you look at this Golden State Warriors team, you could take a look at that 2020 draft and look at that, where that made the biggest hit on the future of the Warriors and their dynasty. When you took James Wiseman, you understood the selection, of course, because before the season, he was supposed to be the number 1 projected pick. As the draft came closer, we saw Anthony Edwards climb draft boards, but also LaMelo Ball, who I always felt comfortable that would have been my selection. Warriors needed a big, so I understand their logic of going out of James Wiseman, no doubt. But with James Wiseman being the lack of better term bust that he was for the Golden State Warriors, it really did impact them because even still, they lack that interior presence. Kevon Looney is an undersized big, can do a job, has done a job for a long time now. But their big move in the offseason to address the big position was Dario Saric, and he hasn't played bad by any means, but at the same time is you need more than a Dario Saric in that interior. I understand that he could stretch a little bit, but at the end of the day, that is not a needle-moving play. You trade off Jordan Poole, you bring in an aging Chris Paul, who is a solid playmaker but has struggled to find offense so far this season. I'm not going to count the Warriors out yet. I'm not calling them contenders. They weren't contenders last year. I don't think they're contenders this year. However, in terms of dynasty, so long as you have a top 5 player in the world in Steph Curry who's shown us no signs of slowing down, why am I to count out the Golden State Warriors who have shown us nothing but wins? So long as Steph Curry's on the court, this is a playoff team. And Klay Thompson, who's going through some woes right now, no doubt about it. The shot selection is definitely the biggest concern of them all. We understand he's aging. The defense wasn't always going to be there, especially after 2 significant injuries. But I think he'll find his eventually. 18, 19 games into the season. I'm not ready to write off Klay Thompson. I think that we saw it last year where he put together one of his best regular seasons by far, kind of lost some steam in the playoffs, especially late in that Kings series and in that Lakers series for sure. But we know what this trio can do when they're all at 100%. But Klay right now definitely has to find his. But when he does, you know that this Warriors team will be sound. Gary Payne being injured sucks. Him being out indefinitely definitely isn't great. But we could look at this Kings game going forward and think this was a positive for the Golden State Warriors, where now they understand, hey, we should be giving Moses Moody some more minutes because when he's hitting shots, he's a solid 3-and-D player for us. He could be crucial to what we want to do. And in terms of AirPod, also, he can get some more minutes and he can be impactful on the offensive side of the ball. There's just situations where you look at Steve Kerr and think he needs to be better. This Kings game could be that slap in the face that Steve Kerr needed to do that. And in situations where it seems as if Klay Thompson or Andrew Wiggins, who right now is dealing with the finger injury too, he's probably not going to play or he's not playing today, correct? There's going to be moments where Kerr needs to rely on the young guys. And I think that could be beneficial in the long term for this Warriors team. But again, it all begins with Steph Curry for me. So long as he's healthy, so long as he's playing basketball, you can't write off the Golden State Warriors. That's just a respect that he's earned.
I feel like we can write them off. They're not going to win a championship this year.
Listen, like I said, I'm not putting them contenders, but you have Steph Curry, you get respect. Simple.
If you got Steph Curry, you get respect to a degree, but do you think they're winning the championship?
I didn't think that they would win a championship the year they won a championship.
But do you think they're winning it this year?
No.
Do they have a chance this year?
I'm going to say no.
Do you think they have a chance this year, Riv, right now?
I said no, right?
The Warriors, no.
But does that mean the dynasty's over?
It does mean if they don't win a championship, the
dynasty's over.
That's unfair, though, because when Kevin Durant left, the idea was that the dynasty's over. Correct? 3 years removed, you go and you win the finals.
But he said as currently constructed, which is
no. I thought the question is the Warriors dynasty over?
The Warriors dynasty is over. When KD left, Klay Thompson had an ACL injury. He didn't play that entire season after KD left.
Did you think that Klay Thompson would ever get back to form after the ACL and Achilles?
No, I didn't.
But then exactly 2 years removed after that, they go and they win a championship.
He wasn't a top 3 reason why they won.
I agree.
So he didn't get back to form.
I agree.
So
also the competition in the West this
the
year
Warriors,
is super tough.
the Warriors,
this year is also different. The West is definitely a
Klay Thompson tore his ACL. He didn't play for that entire next year. They missed the playoffs. That's what led them to getting a top pick. Then the year after that, Klay Thompson tears his Achilles in the offseason. He doesn't play that entire year. The year that Klay came back healthy and that roster had Wiggins and Draymond, 100%, they were a title contender.
Remember, we were like 18-4 before Klay got back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were running the table for Klay.
No, you guys were really good, but I'm saying coming into the season, I didn't have them as championship favorites, championship contenders.
No.
But again, that's me also not respecting, or I should have at least put more respect
Chili
on
Rabbits.
Steph and Dre.
But in that offseason, Riv had them win the championship. I had them winning the championship that year too. They had the talent to win. This year, I don't think they do. I don't think they got the bench to win a championship. I think they're too old of a team. I think the West is caught up and they are better. And it's kind of ironic because Draymond Green back in 2018 or 2019 it was, he called out reporters for not bashing the Phoenix Suns enough for the failed development of Marquise Chris, who Marquise Chris was a top draft pick, and he was traded in his rookie season by the Suns. And Draymond said, you guys never blame the organization. You guys always blame the players, but you never want to hold the organization accountable when the teams don't develop them properly. And he kind of took a jab at reporters who have been open in criticizing the Suns organization at the time. The reason why I find it funny is because the Suns were a bad organization at the time. Well, the Warriors are this great 8+ organization. James Wiseman failed in your development system. Jonathan Kuminga, you can argue, is currently failing in that development system. Moses Moody is looking like the only bright spot out of the 3 swings that they took in the draft when they had high draft
What
picks.
was a swing?
He's a
lottery
lottery
pick.
pick. They're swings. They're swings regardless. You never know who's going to be good,
He
who's not
wasn't
going to be good.
I assume swing is like you take a chance. That's why I
Upside.
said, yeah.
So it's kind of funny how Draymond Green bashed organizations for players being bad, but his organization, who's great, drafted highly touted and talented players, and they are not making an impact on that said team.
But can you say that he's going to call out management? Like, you can't blame him for not calling out his own management.
At the end of the day, I think that he will say that it was a failure on everybody.
I think
for James
once he
Wiseman.
retires,
He did.
I think he'll be more vocal about
He
that.
has said that they failed James Wiseman,
Yep.
but ultimately, bro, you're good or you're not good. You know, some guys are good, some guys are not good. And what you mentioned with the draft, the Warriors missed too many draft picks to recover and to try to combine this timeline of old versus young. Had they hit on the second overall pick back in 2020, they would have been in a great position. Had they taken Franz Wagner instead of Kuminga, who was the pick after, we're looking at the Warriors as a continued dynasty, even past when Steph maybe ultimately retires. So I think that is the biggest knock on this team. But this team's just too old, man. This team's not going to win. Like, they cannot compete with teams in the West right now. I don't think they can compete with the Lakers. They can't compete with the Nuggets. I don't think right now I have question marks against them against OKC because OKC's on the rise.
No doubt.
And I don't think they can compete with Minnesota and what they have in that length and that youth they have. I just think it's the passing of the torch. They are an older team. They won the championship in 2022. They deserve ultimate respect for that because they were able to win one without Kevin Durant, and they were able to continue the dynasty. But as for where it's going now, there's too much regression going on from their main guys outside of Steph. Their 4 best players, 4 of the 5 best, Chris Paul, who's 38, Klay is 33, Draymond is 33, Steph is 35.
You can still play good basketball at 33. I'm not saying that Klay has been playing great ball, but I'm talking Draymond specifically. His type of role,
Draymond's playing great ball.
He can
He's
be
playing
fine.
great, yes. But historically, and I think the LeBrons of the world, the Kevin Durant's of the world, the
Steph
Chris
Curry's
Paul
of the world.
Steph Curry's, the Chris Pauls at 35, 36 of the world,
Oh
make
my
us
gosh.
lose sight.
Can you calm down?
Sorry, Steph.
Make us
you wildin'.
lose sight that players, when they get to a certain age, just drop off. That's the fact. And most likely than not, the norm is going to be players that are older will drop off. And right now that's happened to Klay Thompson. I still think Klay can be a good player, but a player that can fulfill the role that the Warriors are asking him to fulfill in a potential title run, I think it's over.
It's tough. He just needs to really lock in on his 3-point shooting, but be better in the shot selection.
James, talk to us.
I'll say this as a self-proclaimed representative of the Minnesota Timberwolves, Denver Nuggets, Oklahoma City Thunder, so on and so on. The future is now, old man. The Warriors are done. And when I say done, I mean in the championship contention context. So I think you guys all made great points in regards to, you know, just the supporting cast around Steph and Curry. And I think that's where it really starts. Steph is still a top 5 player in the NBA. He's still up there. He can compete. But Chris Paul, not the same player, especially as a scorer. And, that's an interesting situation because you talk about like, okay, which guys you deal? Klay Thompson doesn't look the same because I don't think he has the same, quickness or stamina to just run around all these screens and shoot at the same efficiency. Wiggins has been off, but I still think Wiggins will figure it out. Draymond is putting people on chokeholds and just getting suspended. It's an interesting situation. What'd you say, Riv?
I understand your frustration. You're a Timberwolves fan. I get it.
Je le déteste, which means I hate him in French. So I don't hate Draymond. I love Draymond sort of, but it's just it's a weird vibe. They're too small. They're too slow in the perimeter. I don't think they can stop the best bigs in the West. I don't think they can stop the best wings in the West. It's a really tough balance. And when you talk about the potential of acquiring a player at the deadline to improve this team, you got to question multiple things. Number one, how much do you prioritize the future? And number two, who are you willing to deal? And okay, it's actually three. And number three, whoever you get, is it that much of a needle mover in the West? I honestly think the answer is no there. Like you can say trade Klay Thompson, but like what Myers said, there's an emotional connection there, which is going to lower the possibility of a deal to happen. Same thing with Draymond Green. The Chris Paul thing, I think Chris Paul is going to be the one who ends up getting moved if they make a move because it's an expiring deal. It's Chris Paul, who cares? And then after that, it's like, do you deal Kuminga? Do you deal Moody? Because Moody's had a really good year. I think another team, you'll really value him in a deal. So you have to question, like, do we deal these young players to go all in on a good but not great team? It's just they're in a very weird spot where they're kind of stuck in mediocrity. It's kind of like the Minnesota Vikings of the NBA right now, like just stuck at the spot, man. And I don't know how they get out of it in a way that would, come out right publicly. Because it's like, if they don't make a move, it's like, what do you guys do? And you're complacent. But then when they actually make a move, it's going to be like, okay, you just don't Klay Thompson. You guys stink. Or, it's a weird balance. Or is this guy enough of a difference maker? I think if a Zach LaVine is somehow available for cheap, which I don't still think is going to happen, and you can deal a Klay and Kuminga, I think you do it. But other than that, I don't really know what they do.
And you have to question too, if you're entering this rebuild, what young assets do you want to trade? What draft picks do you want to trade? Because I mean, Steph Curry, you should maximize this window with him because I know he's 35, he's playing an MVP type level, but I mean, realistically, he's 35. You can't have this like 7-year window with Steph Curry. You have to maximize the next probably 2 to 3 years. So trading some of those young players, trading some of those draft picks, you just also have to be wary of once that time comes, where are we going to start from without Steph Curry?
Does Zach LaVine move the needle? Like if y'all were to get him, are you like, okay, now this is a team that's serious in the West?
It would be a lit move.
It'd be cool. It'd give you another shot maker.
Here's the thing. When you have Steph, it makes a little move look better than what it actually is. So
good ass statement.
Well, taking everything into account, what do you think the Warriors are to get LaVine?
Depending on who goes, Klay
and a young piece.
You can. It would move the needle a little bit. Like maybe you see a world where they can beat OKC again in the series. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know if it moves the needle in the grand scheme of things. Like you got to think. Like and I get what Dehls is saying too. But sometimes when you have a top 5 player in the world and it's Steph Curry, who's done so much for your franchise, you can't think about the future. You can't think about 5-6 years down the road. No, you have to maximize and give him the respect he deserves. That if he can still compete with the Giannis's, with the Jokers of the world, with what? You fucked me up when you said that, but sure, with the Tatums of the world and stuff like that. If you can still compete with those guys, you have to maximize the guy that essentially turns your franchise into $1 billion corporation.
Yeah. So ultimately, the goal of the Warriors is to win a championship, right? But you guys, this core 3 has been the heart and soul of the team: Klay, Steph, and Draymond. So let's just say there's a world where Klay Thompson does get traded. Let's say it's a Zach LaVine. Let's say it's whoever. It doesn't matter. Let's say he gets traded, and it doesn't end up in a Warriors championship. In history, do people not look at that like should have never traded Klay?
I mean, of course. You're gonna have the hindsight thinking.
It'll depend on what Klay does when he leaves.
But we're all sitting here saying that we don't think they're going to win a championship with Klay Thompson.
Yeah, so I think
he said that even if they get LaVine, it's not enough of like a needle mover move to.
But I don't want LaVine. I don't like. There's never been a.
Who do you want?
I don't think anybody like.
If you can get that DeMar and Caruso package instead, that.
Oh God, no.
You get Caruso.
Caruso, sure. DeRozan. DeRozan's not
shooting
the
like
needle.
37% on mid range this year.
I think like we've been linked in Toronto. I've seen OG Siakam. I wouldn't be opposed to OG. OG would be cool. Like if you can swap out OG Siakam for like Wiggins, Kuminga, and like GP, that's fucking dope.
OG
Then-
is just a healthier Wiggins right now.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's like if now you have a lineup of Steph, Clay, OG, Siakam, Draymond, then that's like a wait a minute. Okay, now this is a team that looks a little bit better for
That's
sure.
a little bit.
Yeah, like
It's a
you know,
powerhouse.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
Well,
that's a good ass team. But if you're talking about a team with like Steph, Zach, Wiggins, and like Dre, it's like I don't really.
So
wanna do
ultimately,
that,
what I'm
you
talking
know?
about is it worth splitting up the main three if it's not really bolstering your chances to win a championship? Is it just more beneficial for right now and for the future just to stay loyal to all these three guys and let them ride out how they want to ride out, whether that's in a champion, whether that results in a championship or not, just letting them finish off what they all started
no, bro,
together.
I like that Zach move. I know you may not be all in.
You
but
have to pay Clay, by the way.
yeah, that's also
Well,
which
that's
sucks.
not
And
your
you
responsibility. If
you owe Steph the service of building a championship team around him, regardless of who finishes what with him.
Steph
The
has to know that if we want
Yeah.
a championship around him, we might have to.
I
give
think
up
the
some of
only
your
guy
guys.
that you comfortably stick with him is Draymond. Like
I
those
agree.
two are like this
Yeah,
on the
You
court.
need him
Like,
for defense.
yeah, so I like he's the backpack for defense. Steph's the backpack for offense. Their pick and roll is one of the best in the league, so you have to keep both of them together. But I think like genuinely, like James mentioned, there isn't a insane move that kind of puts him in championship contention right now, unless Clay comes back to form, and then you can move Wiggins and all this good stuff. But Zach LaVine. I like Zach LaVine as a player, but he isn't the needle mover for them.
The last topic of the show, we're going to talk about the NBA in-season tournament and give our predictions for the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the finals. We're going
Championship.
to make our
We're gonna do
bracket
the whole
for
thing
them.
today.
Yes, we will do the whole thing. Now, before we get into our official predictions, just really quickly, did you think the in-season tournament was a success where we are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's bringing more interest to the regular season, which was the ultimate goal of the in-season tournament. We've been seeing some high-level basketball, also situations that kind of made tensions rise a little bit. We're talking about that Celtics and Bulls game where the Celtics needed a certain amount of points. They're
Yeah, that was
intentionally
trash.
fouling Drummond. I think that's one thing that we can. The front offices will look at this in-season run and they'll make adjustments accordingly. I think the point differential being the tiebreaker definitely is one that could be looked into further and maybe make adjustments there. But teams are taking it seriously, and they obviously want to compete in this thing. Missoula wouldn't have intentionally fouled Drummond if he didn't want to. But again, it's drawing interest to the regular season. Ultimately, that's what matters, and I think they did a great job of that.
I think it's very ironic that teams are taking it seriously at the time of the in-season tournament. I do think genuinely it was a mixture of the West just got so much better and the East got slightly better, and then we have the in-season tournament. The one thing I do hate about it is the point differential shit. I think that shit is stupid. Like a team shouldn't have to win by 25 points to get, like, if you have the best record in your league, like
when it's the tiebreaker.
the
that's it.
tiebreaker, you just then you can start. But it's like even then, I feel like you could find a better way
You
of
think
doing it.
playing more games because it was 4 games before the quarterfinals? Maybe you have 6. Maybe there's not as many ties. Something like that.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Because I still think you could do it a different way. Like if Boston and Orlando was 3-1, you know, you could figure out some other way. And I do think, and we had a conversation about this on the playback. You know, maybe next year they can do just divisions. Maybe to try to bring back division rivalries would be dope. You know, try to figure out a way to make, because I know in NFL division rivalries are so meaningful. In NBA it used to be like that. Now it's kind of like whatever, everybody's cool. So I think maybe figuring that out. But overall, like Drew mentioned, it's been great hoops for sure. You know, the courts, they do need a little bit of editing on some of the courts. They are kind of ass.
Some of them are tough.
Yeah, some of them are, but there's a lot of too bright, hard to watch. Some of them, the colors
You a
nasty.
fan of
but
the purple courts?
I
personally,
lose it when it's
Minnesota's
like
nice.
all red.
Minnesota is
and it's,
very
like,
nice
red
because
jerseys
Minnesota
and-
has a kind
The
of like
Bulls one's kind of hard.
Minnesota has a nice bland color to it, so it's like
Yeah.
it's not too bright, you know. But some of them, like OKC's, was fucking my eyes up. I couldn't do
They're
it.
all bad.
So bright. I was like, yeah. But overall, it's been a good.
I think it would be
About-
cool your division point where you know, if you're able to get just maybe 4 divisions each, where the reason it's so important for football is you get home field advantage that
Mhm.
first game, that if you win your what they call it, your group or whatever, like maybe you're locked into that top 4. I mean, you're completely changing the way the NBA works, but that would make divisions.
Maybe you could just lock in a home. You get
Or-
home
round
home,
one.
yeah, round one, you get
Yeah.
home court advantage. You
That'd be
know,
dope.
unless you don't make the playoffs.
Overall, I love
That's
it though.
hilarious.
It's been really cool.
My only complaint about the in-season tournament is that it was way too short.
Yeah.
I think
That's true.
next year they should say in-season tournament
Whole month.
goes on for November and December, and the quarterfinals, semifinal, finals play goes on in the month of January. I think giving teams more opportunities and more of a chance to get in it is better, and I think they should expand it. I'm looking at the list of teams that are on right now. You know, Lakers, Suns, Kings, Pelicans, Bucks, Knicks, Pacers, Celtics. I want to see more than 8 teams. I'd like to see at least 12, maybe. I like to see OKC here, Minnesota here, who OKC and Minnesota have some of the best records in the NBA.
Yeah.
The Magic are the second best team in the East record-wise, and they're not in it. I understand it's based on your group play record, but I'd like to see this tournament expanded, and I'd like to see more games played because at the end of the day, the playoffs for this in-season tournament are going to happen in December, and then post-January, we're going to go back to the regular season not really having something to look forward to. You might as well give the regular season as much meaning as possible, and that means expanding the
I'll be with
in-season
that.
tournament and making it longer.
But I also think what they tried to do in terms of making the regular season matter is enforce that you need to play a certain amount of games if you want to be eligible for all NBA teams and those other, of course, accolades. But I'm with you, Joel. Definitely try to expand it a little bit more. But I think what the NBA has done to make the regular season matter more, at least in this offseason, in my opinion, I personally believe they did a great job. The in-season tournament's been awesome, putting a game restriction in terms of wanting to win awards, in terms of max contracts, all of these things that were put in place to make players care about the regular season again. I think that in the end, it will pay off.
James, talk to us.
Yeah, I think you guys made some good points. I agree with Joel in terms of the criticism. I think that more games would be great. I mean, we had some 3-1 teams that didn't make it because they had one bad game. That one loss completely just shattered their chances of the tournament. And I think with the NBA, I think you're missing out on more than you're gaining from that. So the 4-game sample size, I think you can push that to 6 to 8. Like Joel said, push it into December, at least 2 weeks in December. So that is something I'd like to add. But in terms of just overall success, I mean, 26% more viewers in the in-season tournament compared to, games at the same time the year before. So it's already seeing higher engagement, which was the NBA's goal. And you would assume that after the first year that you will have, maybe I think the playoffs this year are really important, the in-season tournament, because if it goes really well, I think that it's going to heavily increase interest. If it goes poorly or just kind of like, whatever, then I think it's going to probably neutralize, which would still be a relative success. But I think there's more meat on the bone. And for the first year, I think it was so far a pretty good success.
NBA in-season tournament predictions. To start off with the quarterfinals, the Lakers versus Suns. Who you guys going with?
Oh, the Suns healthy.
Who's playing for the Suns? That's the number one question.
It's going to be a good game. The Lakers have the Suns' number. We're going to keep it riding, baby.
Oh, the Suns healthy.
I need to know who's playing.
The Lakers
Who-
are
Book-
used to winning Mickey
Biden.
Mouse things.
Oh
So Suns injured right now. Mickey Mouse win over them, maybe. I'm gonna still go with the Suns. I'm riding with Kevin Durant, baby.
Lakers, they're missing a couple players too. A lot of their defense, they're missing some guys.
Rui, Vando,
Cam, say his name
Cam.
first.
Cam,
Gabe.
Show some
Gabe,
fucking
all can be
respect.
back as soon as next game.
So
Next game is going to be this game. So
I'm gonna lean.
I don't think so. Do we not play until Tuesday?
Right.
I know the Celtics don't.
Who you
don't
going
play
with,
again
Riff?
till
I
Monday.
think I'm gonna lean LA. I think I'm gonna go LA for this one. If they're getting their guys back for that game
Facts.
defensively,
Play tonight.
Oh, there you go.
they're getting their guys back defensively. That should be big for them. And once again, I can't trust Phoenix. I don't know who's playing for Phoenix, so I can't really give a take on them. One guy could be out. If all three were there, I'd pick Phoenix, but I don't
I
know.
agree.
So I'd go Lakers.
Yeah, Phoenix. They almost just beat Denver without Jamal Murray.
Didn't Kevin Durant go 0
Uh,
for 10 in the second half?
Yeah, Kevin Durant didn't make a shot in the second half. Nurkic dropped 30.
He had 11 assists.
They're back.
They're all
Yeah,
playing.
what?
Rui and
He had 11 assists.
He did have 11 assists. I would lean
More
with LA
assists than
here, though.
made field goals. Interesting.
I would lean with LA.
Respect him. It's crazy, but I get it.
James. Who are you going with?
You're muted.
I was
buddy.
on mute. Whoops. Okay. So I would lean LA as well. This is the perfect opportunity for the LeBron GOAT legacy to steal the first ever in-season tournament championship. So let's get started.
Talk to him.
Kings versus Pelicans.
Sneaky good game. Pelicans and Zion's on, and Trey Murphy coming back. I'm leaning the Pelicans.
Zion on. They just lost to the Jazz.
He wasn't on. He scored 12 points, didn't he?
I don't know.
They faced the Spurs.
I just know that. No, I know they lost a couple days
game
ago.
before. Okay,
I'm taking the Kings here. I like the Kings.
I'm going with the Kings as well.
This was a tough one. I think they played earlier this month. I don't remember who won. One of them won back to back. I don't remember if it was the Pels or the Kings.
Was that when Fox was hurt?
No, I think Fox was playing. Who you going with?
I'm going with the Pelicans.
I'll ride with the Kings. I'll ride with the Kings. They did just get their ass whipped by the Clippers.
On a back-to-back.
Yeah.
They just beat
They
the
had
Warriors
an
the night
emotional
before.
win. Facts.
Them going down 30 back-to-back nights is
That's
nuts.
true.
Yeah.
Hey, got
They
back
just
one
came
of
back
them, though.
yesterday.
Yo,
Got back one of them.
Kawhi looked insane.
No, he's bugging right now. He's kind of back. Yeah, I'll go with the Kings though.
Damn, Goodell wants the tush push band.
I would go Pelicans. I think the Valanciunas and Sabonis matchup is relatively interesting. Not that Valanciunas can stop Sabonis, but I think that's a good physical defensive matchup for him. And I think that a Sabonis-led paint's burnt toast with Zion attacking the rim with a healthy Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum. I think the Pelicans will do it.
Bucks versus Knicks.
This is another one. Sneakily, I think the Knicks can pull the upset. Jalen Brunson has been on another level shooting the basketball. What is it, like 47, 48% from three?
He's been a good defender this year too.
That's another thing. So I look at the Knicks. I look at the way that they've been playing on the defensive side of the ball. It's one of those that in a knockout round, anything can happen. I'm respecting the Milwaukee Bucks. I understand that even through it all, that we're still talking about a 13-14 win team that's only lost a handful of games. Damian Lillard finally has been turning it on as well. The mind wants to lean the Bucks, but the heart is going with NY.
I'm going with the Knicks in
heart.
this one.
Ooh.
The Knicks are going to win. The Bucks cannot stop Jalen Brunson.
I'm not sure
RJ
a Knicks
Barrett's
fan.
playing well. He's going to have a great game. And Julius Randle, he might not show up in the playoffs,
He's been
but
hooping.
he'll show up in the in-season tournament quarterfinals. This is what he was made
Yo,
for.
and Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson has been a dog this
Probably the best
season.
rebounder in the NBA. I'm going with the Bucks here, though. They've been playing better, even though they did just lose to the Bulls. That was an ugly, ugly game, but it happens to the best of us. I think in a one-game situation, I'll take Giannis and Dame. Even though, give credit to the Knicks, Jalen Brunson's been hooping. IQ still up there. Mitchell Robinson, like I said, probably the best rebounder in the NBA. Probably the best bench in the NBA as well. But I'll lean with the Bucks here with the superstars.
Don't sleep. Bulls Bucks rivalry game, baby. Caruso, man. That's what I'm telling you.
Caruso, he's a legend for that.
I'll go vibes here. I'll take the Knicks. I think defensively they'll be able to hold up on the defensive end against the Bucks, and the Bucks just can't stop anybody. So Jalen Brunson's been hooping, like Joel mentioned. This is November and December, so Julius Randle should be on go for this one. If this was April, we know how the vibes go. So I'm gonna go Knicks here for vibe pick for sure.
Pacers versus Celtics.
Well, I got a big one. This is I have really weird reasoning for this. I have this weird feeling that we're gonna have a Malik Beasley game. I don't know what it is. But
What the fuck?
he's like the most random player of all time. I'm feeling like in-season tournament, non-playoff moment. Malik Beasley will think this is his show. 7 threes, and Giannis and Dame will do it.
Are you
why I'm feeling this.
would you willing to gamble that on like a FanDuel or something?
I'll gamble the over on Beasley.
Oh my
7
God.
threes.
Pacers versus
Plus
Celtics.
This is really the most unfortunate consolation prize of going undefeated. You get to face arguably the best team in the NBA, the Boston
frauds.
Celtics. I'm going with the Celtics to win this one.
Hopefully Porzingis is back. I think he's expected to play. He's been out these last 3 or 4 games with that calf injury.
Facts.
But I'm going with Boston. Pacers, their defense is a real question. They might have that number 1 offense. They're still number 1 offensive rating.
They are.
But that defense, man, they let up 120 in their sleep every night, and it's usually more than that. So I go with Boston.
I'm easily going to Celtics. The Pacers can't. It's weird. The Pacers really put on the best show on earth on offense, and then they get on the other end. It's like they go to sleep. So I'm
They're
going
like
with
bottom
Boston.
3 in defense, aren't they?
They might be bottom 1.
Are they the
They're
worst?
just ready to run on defense. They're ready to
They
run on
really are
offense,
just
not
waiting
guarding.
until you either miss or make, and then they're just like, "Yeah, we're going."
Yeah, they're 28.
Oh God.
It's
With the way Indiana plays basketball, I just think because of how bad they are defensively, they have to play nearly perfect on a big and rangy Celtics team. I think the Celtics win pretty handedly.
I'm going with the Celtics as well. And just to get all your guys' predictions round table, what do you think will be the semifinals game in the East and West? And who are you predicting to win a championship?
So in the East, I got was this Celtics versus Bucks? Could be ECF matchup. You know who I'm going with. I'm going with the Boston Celtics. On the other side, I got Lakers versus Kings. We know what the NBA wants. They want a Lakers versus Celtics championship game for the in-season tournament. Lakers, Celtics. Boston takes it home.
When we play the
Kings actually be whipping their ass. So for me, I have the Lakers and the Kings in my semi, and I think the Kings take that one for sure. Something about the Kings and the Lakers game. The Lakers just cannot defend the Kings at all. And then on the other side, I have the fraudulent Boston Celtics. Then I have the New York Knicks.
Why are they fraudulent?
Because I'm just trolling Dehls. And Boston pretty much they tend to give the Knicks the business. It always is a great game. Always is a great game, but it comes down to the wire. Boston just talent outweighs that. So you got Boston and the Kings. And I'm gonna go unlikely winner here. First year in season tournament. I'm gonna go to Kings to win it. Yeah, I'm gonna take a vibe check here.
I respect the vibe check. I think I'm with Dehls though. My semifinals would be Knicks versus Celtics. I think Celtics would win that game. It would be a really good game, but I think Celtics just edge them out. And then Lakers versus Kings. Oh, excuse me. Mine would be Lakers versus Pelicans. I think the Lakers do win that matchup. And then Lakers versus Celtics. You already know who's taking it home. King James, those Los Angeles Lakers, the inaugural in-season champion.
The semifinals for me, I got the Suns and Kings. I have the Kings edging out the Suns to go to the finals to face the Celtics in the East. And I got the Celtics winning it all. I got the Celtics.
He's jinxing the shit out of you.
The first
for
ever
sure.
in-season tournament. That's the only championship they'll win this year, unfortunately, but they'll win it for sure.
Okay, I'm feeling a little scary here. So I think the Lakers Pelicans play, and I think AD has a really weird game. So then the Pelicans beat them, and then the Pelicans are in the championship game against the Boston Celtics, and I'm gonna say the Pelicans win it.
There we go. Dehls.
We're here for different shit.
I'll tell you what, I'll be thrilled to see Zion lift the
Kings and Pelicans.
Yeah, it'll be the only thing he wins.
Jim O'Brien, he donated $20 to us. Shout out to Jim
O'Brien.
Yo, guys, want to show some love. You guys helped me hit a 10-team parlay last weekend for a big payday. Suggestion for you guys, us should have a setup Venmo and Cash App for the show and have it on the back of your TV screen.
Oh, if you just want to pay us, that'd be cool.
That's for the Patreon.
That is
join the Patreon. Ricky goes, rank these teams from best to worst long-term wise for the future. The Magic, the Rockets, and the Pacers.
Ooh, that's good.
I think it's in the exact order.
I would have the Magic one.
Yeah, the Pacers are weird because they have Hallie, they have Jarris, they have Benedict, but Jesus, they have Mathurin. But Mathurin and Jarris are kind of question marks.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrese is kind of the one prone guy. So I think I would go Magic. Yeah, Rockets, Pacers.
I think Ricky knew what he was doing. 1, 2, 3 is accurate.
You cooked. You did cook, Ricky.
I will flip the Rockets and Pacers. I think Hallie is him, and I think Matherin's going to break out eventually. So I'm going to hold that faith in. So I'll trust those two to lead the way.
Senpai NFT goes, Indiana is currently the worst defense in the league. Hallie's high-paced offense results in awful defense, and it's why they're 9-8. Overrated, period.
Yeah, and the defense is an issue.
I mean, I wouldn't call them overrated because I don't think none of us have them like going to the ECF or anything, you know.
They should be a playoff team.
Why does high tempo offense lead to bad defense?
Because you're a bad transition defense.
But if you're playing at a fast pace and you're still being number one in offensive rating, which means you're being efficient, you're still finishing.
I hope I got it right.
No, but that's what I mean. To me, that doesn't make sense. If anything, if you wanted to make an argument, is that they're tired on the defensive side of the ball and they're not playing.
Let me see. Let me try to paint a scenario in my brain. They go. Don't feel like
that's it. It's really that they're tired from running at a fast tempo offense.
We've seen high tempo offenses be good defenses, so I don't think that's the case. I don't think they have the personnel.
The Grizzlies were one of the highest in terms of pace last season because
they
really
do have
that's how
Jaren Jackson,
they thrive, but defensively they were great. I don't know.
And
were they high paced?
Out in transition, I remember.
Or was it just
for a while? Well, I remember for a while they were number one in transition points.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I know Ja, he likes to run out there by himself.
No doubt.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Pick a Side Podcast, episode 331. We want to thank Wilder Adams for being on the show.
Wilder.
Is there anywhere the people can follow you, Wilder?
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. It was an absolute honor. So you guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter, What's on Tap NBA. IG is more analysis oriented. Twitter is nasty agenda oriented. So you guys can find me both places. Also a new podcast that we're rejuvenating right now. It's Windshield Hoops. You can find it on YouTube. I got a whole new cast of characters onto it, so that's going to be pretty fun. But yeah, thank you guys so much once again.
Anytime. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Pick a Side Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.